Hello guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got banished by council and got harem? Part 3. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. A year had passed since Kurama had joined up with Naruto. The two have become an inseparable duo. Naruto had taught Kurama how to fight against the monsters alongside Naruto. Naruto developed armor and unique tools to aid him in battle. The two of them formed new legends that spread throughout the lands of a mysterious stallion and his feline companion hunting monsters and dealing with cultists and other beings that threatened the land. As time passed, the duo would be joined by the two other ponies would join them. One was like Naruto, someone else cultists brought from another world. The other was some pony who lost everything, had needed help to find their place in the world. Both would become his students in monster hunting and set the path for others to follow. Naruto was glad that they had joined up with him. He could easily see both needed help to guide them out of the darkness they lay trapped in. The first student was a unicorn mare called Aurora. She had a shen gray fur tone, and her mane and tail were violet colored with black streaks. Her most unique feature was the strange blue marking that went down the right side of her body. The marking were odd wavy lines that seemed like tattoos when Naruto first saw them. Naruto and Kurama had found her in an abandoned facility created by the cult. He heard about the place from locals of a nearby town. Flashback start. Naruto and Kurama were standing outside a massive building. It was used by the cult until they abandoned it for unknown reasons. They were examining the place to make sure that nothing dangerous was left behind that could escape and attack the nearby town. "Let's be careful, we don't know what could be in there," Naruto said to Kurama. Kurama nodded his head and the two went inside. There were signs of a battle with destroyed furniture and other things all over. Naruto, when he scanned the building for life signs, he detected one in the basement of the building and others that felt very wrong to him. What he felt from the other signs was dark and twisted energy. He had a feeling the cult was behind this, but didn't want to imagine what they did to cause it. The feel of the energy reminded him of when that cultist appeared and resurrected the Lao Shunlong corpse, but stabbing it with that weird shard. Naruto kept one hand on his weapon as they searched the rooms for information. The duo stumbled upon an office. The two spilt up looking over the papers and books. Anything of value was sealed away to be sold off later. The papers revealed that the ponies at the facility were experimenting with the corrupted energy that they called blight. Blight was magic energy that had been twisted and corrupted by the cult's actions. Naruto was unsure how it happened, but it was a dangerous threat to all lands because blight poisons not only the land but everything else as well, including whatever being encounter the energy. "Something about this place feels wrong. I don't want to know what broke out of here, but I bet the cult is responsible for its creation," Kurama said to Naruto. Before Naruto could respond to Kurama, a series of groans caught their attention. Both hunters raised their weapons' two sidearms and pointed them towards the doorway the noises were coming from. They heard more groans and then shuffling of feet as whatever it was moved closer to them. The creature stepped into the light, revealing it to be a pony dressed in doctor's garb. He was dragging his left leg, which was bent at a strange angle. Before either of them could offer help, the light revealed his current state. He had blight crystals growing out of his chest and down his right arm, changing his hand into a claw. Half of the flesh on the right side of his face was torn off, revealing his skull had transformed into the same crystal material. The monster roared before charging at the duo. Naruto and Kurama fired their weapons, each shot slamming into the monster with little effect. Naruto had enough and summoned Aoihime to his hand. Naruto entered his standard stance with his knees bent and his blade facing the monster. In a single moment he drew his blade and performed several slashes on the monster. Naruto then swung Aoihime, removing any blood on the blade before sheathing the blade. When the handle clicked against the sheath, the monster fell to pieces. Huff, huff, what in the world was that thing? It looked like a doctor, but what happened to him caused that transformation? Kurama asked as he reloaded his firearm. "I don't know, but I'm guessing it has something to do with blight. The energy coming off him was same as it. I got a feeling there is more awaiting us ahead, so better switch to your blades. They seem to work better than guns at this moment," Naruto replied. Kurama nodded his head before bringing out his glaive. It had a metal staff with paw print-like designs on the handle, before ending in a fearsome-looking blade at the end. The blade was a darkened steel color with cracks emitting heat and sparks. Naruto nodded at Kurama's choice for a weapon, knowing that the glaive was infused with fire, which would work well against most fleshy enemies. Naruto chose to keep Aoihime ready in his hand, that way he could draw it in an instant and take out any threat that approached him and Kurama. The two headed deeper into the compound, taking at any of the Forsaken they came across. The Forsaken was what they called the crystal monsters, since they were left to die by others, as shown by claw marks and other signs on the walls and doors. The duo cleared every room they came across, not wanting to let anything get free and start attacking innocent ponies. They also found remains of other ponies who weren't changed but left for dead and eaten by the Forsaken. Naruto and Kurama reached a heavily sealed door in what they assumed to be the basement of the facility. Naruto could feel that the energy source that he felt earlier was behind this door. Both Kurama and Naruto exchanged a look, nodding their heads to be prepared for anything behind the door. The door opened to reveal a female unicorn kept in a tube filled with strange liquid. Naruto immediately got to work on draining the tube and freeing the poor mare trapped inside. Naruto examined the mare with a medical scan to make sure she was okay. As he was doing that, she woke up from her sleep and lashed out at Naruto. "Get away, you bastards, I refuse to be a pawn to your master," the mare shouted before realizing that the ones in front of her were not members of the cult. Cough, who are you guys? You're not dressed as members of the cult?" the mare asked. Naruto stepped forward. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, my partner is Kurama. The two of us are investigating this facility that was abandoned by the cult when something went wrong. Do you mind telling us your name and how you got here?" Naruto replied. "My name is Aurora Skies, both me and my mother were brought here from another world. The cult captured us and took us through a portal and to this facility. They wanted me to serve them because of my unique powers and abilities," Aurora said as she held herself to keep from shaking. Naruto walked towards her and summoned a blanket to cover her up in. He didn't want to imagine what the cult put her through. The only thing he could do was help her pick up the remains of her shattered life and guide her to a new path. Naruto picked up Aurora and teleported them back to his hotel room. There he directed her to the shower and left out fresh clothes for her until he could buy her some new ones. Kurama approached Naruto, who was sitting down on the bed. He was unsure what their next move was going to be. "Boss, what are we going to do now?" Kurama asked. "First we need to talk with Aurora and see what she wants to do now that she is free of the cult's prison. She deserves to have a life that will help her get past this nightmare," Naruto replied. Aurora stepped out of the bathroom, dressed in a form-fitting t-shirt and pants. She looked to be in a better mood than when they first found her. Naruto also noticed a strange light blue marking on the right side of her body. Naruto didn't want to make her uncomfortable. Aurora moved to the bed across from Naruto and sat down. She looked at the man-stallion that rescued her from that never-ending nightmare. Naruto explained everything he knew about the cult to Aurora. She chimed in, filling any gaps she could with information she had overheard from various members of the cult. Together the two talked for a while before Naruto asked her the important question. "What do you want to do now? You're no longer a prisoner of the cult, so you can live your life the way you want it to be," Naruto said. Aurora gained a nervous look on her face, started rubbing her arm. She already knew what she wanted to ask, but first she needed to work up the courage to tell Naruto what she wanted to ask him. "I would like to come with you and Kurama on your travels. I want to become your student and learn under you," Aurora replied after a few minutes. Aurora looked at Naruto, whose face showed him a deep thought. Naruto was thinking about what she asked. He was considering her offer. From what he could sense from Aurora, she had potential to become a strong hunter. The training would also protect her from the cult in case they decide to come after her again. Celestia had asked in a previous letter if he would consider training others in hunting and fighting monsters. This was something he already had in mind since he couldn't be everywhere and help everyone at once. Aurora could be the first pony student he would train. While he didn't show it, he was nervous about teaching since he was self-taught in everything he knew. "You realize that this will not be an easy road for you. The training I will have you will be difficult, but that is because of what you are being trained to hunt. Knowing this, do you still wish to become my student?" Naruto asked. "Yes, I still wish to be your student no matter how hard the training will be," Aurora replied. Naruto simply smiled easily, seeing that Aurora was strong in her conviction. Naruto knew he made the right choice in accepting her as his student. He knew that she would be the first of many to come in future times. "Since it's late tonight, we'll start in the morning, first getting you some clothes and anything else you're going to need for traveling," Naruto said. All three were tired from the adventures they had to today. Aurora was given her own, while Kurama slept with Naruto. Aurora, the most excited she had felt in a long time. She was free of the cult and she had a teacher friend who would teach her how to fight monsters. Flashback end. Aurora would learn that Naruto was a fair teacher. He would help her with the basics of any technique she wanted to learn, but stepped back and let her master the technique herself. He would advise her if something was wrong or if the technique wasn't a desirable choice for her to learn. Together the three of them would experiment and document her siren abilities. The blue marking in her side marked her as a siren, which was a female with the ability to manipulate and control energy in unusual ways. Aurora didn't know much about sirens, only what her mother told her about them before she was killed by the cult. The abilities that they have discovered so far are Phase Walk, which makes her intangible and allows her to move through objects, Phase Trap that cocoons her target in a sphere of energy, and the last ability was Phase Strike, which summons 6 separate arms that could grab, punch and block enemy attacks. Aurora would master the lighter weapons that would allow her to remain quick on her feet and strike hard against any monsters she hunted. Naruto would develop a recharging shield that would protect hunters from damage. While the shield was active, Aurora was currently using the newer model which converted magical energy taken in from its surrounding to heal the wearer from any damage taken. Naruto was working on other models that had different abilities that ranged from model to model. Aurora also expressed a desire to learn medical skills that would help her teammates in battle or help others suffering from various medical problems. The trio would later expand when a stallion joined their group. The stallion was a Pegasus from a small town away from the larger cities and towns in Equestria. He and his mother took care of the weather duties for the town. He was different from normal ponies since his father was a feline from the nation of Indra. The main signs of his hybrid nature were his ears and tail, which took the appearance his feline heritage instead of his pony nature. Life was good in the small town of Shadow Hollows, but everything changed one day when a monster attacked the village and killed everyone but the stallion because his mother hid him in the well, escaping the monster's notice. Flashback start. The hunting trio were approaching the small town of Shadow Hollows. They were stopping at the town to restock supplies and rest from a difficult hunt with a troublesome monster that kept running away at first chance it got. "I need a hot bath, that stupid monster made us chase us all over the swamp and every time we cornered it released a smokescreen and ran away," Aurora whined. Naruto said nothing but nodded his head. The creature was incredibly annoying with its hit and run tactics and its cowardice. Naruto stopped as an all too familiar smell reached him by the wind. He knew what it meant, and judging by how strong the stench was, it was a bad scene that awaited them. Naruto exchanged a look with the others who already knew that trouble lied ahead. Both drew weapons to defend themselves with Kurama, his glaive, and Aurora a pair of dual curved swords. Aurora's blades were a new creation of Naruto. Each blade was infused with one element. The left blade had a gray metal spike with the sharpened blade edges coming out the sides and meeting at the top. The edges were red as they did fire damage, with the right being the same design, with the only difference being the white blade edges signifying ice damage. Naruto chose to bring out his dual-bladed weapon and keep it combined rather than separate them for a blade in each hand. The scene that they found was something out of a nightmare. Various bodies of ponies cut to pieces littered the ground. The group was horrified at the sight before them. Naruto ordered the group to split up and look for survivors and be on the lookout for what caused this massacre. Kurama moved silently through the town. He only found dead ponies, and from what he saw they were cut with a sharp blade. A sudden noise drew Kurama's attention to an alleyway. As Kurama looked into it to find a small group of Forsaken feasting on the remains of villagers, Kurama readied a blast grenade and rolled it down the alley to the monsters. The blast took out most of the monsters, while Kurama took out the remaining ones with several quick strikes with his glaive. It glowed red with fire swirling around blade as it cut the Forsaken to pieces, then burning the remains to ash. Kurama checked for more Forsaken before continuing onward with the exploration of the town. He continued to find more Forsaken throughout the town but nothing else. He decided to head towards the meeting point. Aurora was sickened by the sights before her. These ponies were killed without mercy. She had found what looked like a parent trying to shield their child from their attacker. As with Kurama, she also encountered Forsaken as well. She knew from what Naruto had told her they were scavenge feeders. They feasted on the kills of others but could bring down their own prey if enough grouped together in a swarm. A little while later Aurora would reach a damaged well on the edge of the town. She found a wounded mare lying against it. Aurora immediately rushed up to try and heal her, but the mare stopped her. "Don't bother wasting your energy on me, I won't survive the process. My son is still alive, he is in the well behind me, please take care of him and tell him that his mother is proud of the stallion he has become," the mare said before collapsing to the ground. Aurora was shocked at the mare's passing, but she would do as she asked. First, she investigated the well and saw the stallion that the mare was talking about. She pulled him from the well using her magic to start healing him to safely move him to the group's meeting spot. Before she teleported, Aurora felt a massive spike in demonic energy. Following the first was a second spike that she recognized as belonging to her teacher. She could only guess that he was fighting whatever caused the massacre of the village's residents. Naruto examined the bodies of the slain villagers, finding trace amounts of demonic energy found on each of the bodies. This meant that they were slain with a demonic weapon. Naruto had developed spells in the past for tracking energy. One allowed him to track demonic energy, so tracking the one who did all this wouldn't be a problem. Before he could gather the magic to cast the spell, he felt a powerful demonic presence nearby. Naruto readied himself for the fight he knew was to come. Naruto rushed forward into the town square. He could feel the demon's presence in the square. The demon was a massive knight in blue armor. His right arm looked more like a dragon than a pony's. Its weapon was a massive demonic blade with a large blinking eye near the bottom of the blade. "Are you the one who killed all these ponies?" Naruto asked while keeping direct contact on the monster. The demon laughed at Naruto's question. "Yes, this is my work. I am the Demon Knight Nightmare. I know who you are, Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto showed no reaction other than tightening his grip on his blade. He could tell that this was going to be difficult. He could feel the demonic energy coming off him in waves, at the same time something felt very off about the demon at the same time. Naruto felt two different energies inside Nightmare, and it seemed like they were fighting with one another for control. It reminded him of when he couldn't control Kurama's chakra and it would take over him. "Why did you attack this town? Were you trying to draw me out?" Naruto asked, already knowing the answer in his mind though. Nightmare merely laughed at the question. "No, that was just a bonus. I was wandering nearby when I stumbled upon this town. My hunger arose at the sight of so many fresh souls ripe for slaying." Naruto immediately launched a charge thrust attack at Nightmare, sending him crashing through a home. He followed up with several slashes, with both blades slicing through Nightmare's armor and leaving deep gashes before he was forced back when Nightmare slammed his blade into his, knocking out of the house and back onto the street. Nightmare came charging forward with a heavy stab attack. Naruto rolled to the right, then struck back with his own stab attack, striking Nightmare in the back. The attack missed because of Nightmare dodging at the last second, then retaliating with his own stab. Naruto blocked the attack with his blades and channeled chakra into the ground to anchor himself. Nightmare quickly struck with a sweeping slash that cut Naruto on the arm before grabbing him with his demonic hand and tossing him into another building. Naruto pulled himself from the rubble of a ruined wall to see Nightmare charging towards him. Naruto jumped up and onto the ceiling, dodging Nightmare's charge attack and stopped channeling chakra and slammed down onto Nightmare before summoning a Rasengan to blast him out of the house. Both fighters rushed forward, their blades slamming into the other as they fought for dominance. Naruto forced Nightmare back and charged forward, ducking under a slash attack and cut deeply into his leg with a smaller blade. Nightmare struck back with an overhead chop attack, but Naruto dodged the attack and slashed at his other leg to slow him down and leave him vulnerable to attacks. Naruto's choice to weaken Nightmare's legs paid off because Nightmare, while not fast from the beginning, was struggling to keep pace with Naruto. Nightmare screamed into the air as his demonic energy circled him. Naruto felt Nightmare regaining strength, but his wounds didn't heal. Nightmare's power-up is the same as Artorias and Madara from the Dark Souls franchise. Naruto launched a charge piecing attack at Nightmare. The attack came at blinding speeds and left a trail of glowing blue flames in his wake. The attack slammed into Nightmare, who was unable to dodge the attack that did severe damage to his chest plate. The follow-up attack was blocked by Nightmare's demonic arm. Naruto responded with a stab attack with a charged wind cyclone on the blade, sending Nightmare flying away and Naruto chasing after him. Nightmare dug his hand into the ground to slow himself down from the knockback before charging towards Naruto. Nightmare struck back with a vicious combo. While it was only 3 hits, the weight of Nightmare's blade did heavy damage to Naruto. Nightmare attacked with a sweeping attack, causing Naruto to slide under the blade and then retaliate with a Rasengan, but Nightmare blocked the attack with his blade but was pushed back from the force of the attack. Naruto fired off several soul arrows. Nightmare charged through them and slammed into Naruto. The two warriors would continue clashing blades, neither one gaining the upper hand over the other. Naruto began charging up magic into his blades for an attack. Naruto then readied himself by bending his knees and aiming the blade at Nightmare. Naruto shot forward at Nightmare, slamming into him and knocking him back. Naruto didn't let up and kept attacking from multiple directions. It was a relentless onslaught for Nightmare since he couldn't track Naruto's location, and every time he tried to guard against the attacks, Naruto would change directions to get around his defenses. By the end of the combo, Nightmare was barely standing. He had numerous wounds from the constant barrage of attacks, but before the battle could continue any further, several spells were shot towards Naruto, forcing him to dodge away and give Nightmare the chance to recover. Naruto looked around for the location of the caster. They came from 3 members of the cult. They circled around Nightmare while one pulled out a dark-colored potion. The cultist then poured it on the ground, smoke appearing and enveloping the group and then fading away, showing that the cultists and Nightmare had disappeared. Naruto cursed to himself. He wasn't the first time the cult disappeared from a battle like this. The potion teleported whoever was in the smoke to an unknown location. Naruto could feel something was off about Nightmare. When they were fighting, his energy felt uncoordinated and unstable. Unfortunately, Naruto didn't know enough about the Blue Knight to guess why his energy felt that way, but he would try to find out. What had him most concerned was the blade he used. Naruto could feel the demonic energy coming off it in large waves. He could also feel madness and corruption coming from the blade as well. He would send a message to Celestia and see if she has any information on both subjects. Naruto then teleported to the group's meeting spot to make sure every pony was okay and move on from there. Upon reaching the building, he found Kurama on watch while Aurora tending to a stallion. "Were there any other survivors?" Naruto asked. Aurora shook her head. "There was one, but she died shortly after telling me of his location." Naruto said nothing but frowned, trying to understand why the cult would do this. What was there to gain by killing innocent ponies? Naruto knew Celestia was going to be upset when she heard of this. Naruto, did you find out who did this? We felt your magic spiking earlier, along with who or what you were fighting against. Kurama asked. Yes, I did, he called himself the Demon Knight Nightmare. The blade he was using has me very worried, I felt an immense dark and evil presence coming from the blade, Naruto replied, well remembering the dark presence he felt from the blade. The group was pulled from their thoughts by the sounds of groans coming from the unknown stallion. He tried to get up but was stopped by Aurora, she forced him to lie back down on the bedroll. I'm afraid have you moving around just yet, you're going to reopen your wounds and I am not going to patch them twice, Aurora said. The stallion relaxed on the roll, he took several deep breaths to relax himself. Once he did, he looked around hoping to see familiar faces, but only the ones that rescued him. Thank you for rescuing me, my name is Stygian Fang. Me and my mother oversee the weather duties for the village, Stygian said. You're welcome, my name is Aurora Skies, the feline is Kurama, and the large stallion is Naruto Uzumaki, Aurora explained. Are there any other survivors? I remember the monster attacking and every pony screaming and running when he started attacking the town. I remember being hit and then looking up towards my mom as I fell down the well, Stygian asked. Naruto shook his head, I'm afraid you are the only one we found, the other villagers were killed by Nightmare. He was the demon knight at your village. Hearing this caused Stygian to break down, Aurora moved to comfort the broken stallion, while Naruto and Kurama readied themselves to give the fallen villagers a proper burial. This was something Naruto insisted on doing because the villagers deserved a proper burial, rather than leaving them to rot in the sun. It took a few hours, but all the villagers were buried in graves, and a monument was created to honor them. Stygian and Aurora would come out after the monument was set up. Stygian was still in rough shape from Nightmare's attack and the loss of everyone he knew. Thank you for doing this, I don't think I could have done any it myself, Stygian said. Naruto waved him off, don't worry about it, you're still recovering, you don't need any more on your plate, Naruto replied. After Stygian paid his respects to the fallen, he was guided back to the building the group had taken temporary residence in. His wounds haven't fully healed just yet because of the lingering demonic energy from Nightmare's blade. The energy interfered with the body's natural healing, making it take longer for wounds to heal and recover from. Naruto and the others were waiting for Stygian to recover enough strength to travel. Naruto already knew that Stygian would want to travel with them since he had nothing left tying him down here. It would be later that night that Stygian would ask Naruto to join his group. Naruto could feel that he would be a strong hunter. Naruto explained everything that would be put through, both in terms of the training he would be going through and what he would be fighting against. Are you sure this is what you want? There are other things you could do with your life? Naruto asked. Stygian nodded his head, I am sure, there is nothing for me here and I want to travel with you and repay the debt I owe to you and the others. There is no debt, for now just focus on recovering. By the morning you will have recovered enough to travel. Once you have fully recovered, we shall start your training. For now, get some rest, tomorrow we continue our journey, Naruto said. Flashback end. The group would grow with Stygian added to the mix, he learned the ways of the hunter quickly. He would prove to be an invaluable member of the group. He and Naruto would work on air combat training against the monsters. They would create different techniques for combating the different wyvern classes from the air and providing air support to hunters on the ground. Aurora and Stygian would work together, the two balancing out their natural skills and abilities with each other. Time passed quickly for the group, soon enough their names were known throughout the land. Naruto also learned to trust them with his secrets. He told them about who he is in Alicorn and how he came to Equestria. Both were shocked at the truth and what he went through before coming here, but they understood his reasoning for keeping everything secret. Neither would hold the information against him, and both promised to not treat him any differently than they already have. Naruto trained Aurora and Stygian in all weapons for hunting. He wanted them to have knowledge of all the weapons, so that way they can adapt and change styles if one style is not working against their prey, so that they can switch to another. Naruto also unlocked their ability to use and produce charka. He learned how to do this in scrolls that the sage left for him. He had the ability to give those he chose to gift them with charka. Naruto would be careful on who gave this ability to. The elemental nations was corrupted by this power. He doesn't want to cause a repeat in Equestria. The group was currently headed to the town Appaloosa. The town was the first to be founded in the Badlands. The town had identified one of the monsters being a Diablo, which was a dangerous wyvern known for its aggressive behavior. There was at least one other monster that had been spotted but not identified. There were also rumors about strange tracks and scales collected from an unknown creature. The residents were unsure if it was one of the monster wyverns or something else. Did the townsfolk have any description of the other monster? So far we identified one as a Diablo. Well, they gave us nothing on the other monster. Aurora asked. Naruto shook his head, nothing except tracks and a few scales they found in different areas. The buffalo tribes that live close to the town haven't gotten a good look at it either. What they do know is the monster has a seemingly endless appetite and eats everything and anything. I guess we'll find out when we get there, the fact they have scales from the monster is a good start for us, Stygian replied. Agreed, this will at least allow us to track the monster in the field, Kurama said. The group continued to discuss different ideas on what the monster could be. They broke off their discussion when the train started slowing down and the conductor announced that they were coming up on Appaloosa. The group got their gear together and got off the train and onto the platform. This gave them their first look at Appaloosa. The town was large and showed signs of getting bigger in the future. The town gave off a relaxed rustic feeling that felt before in Dodge Junction, another old-fashioned town. The ponies of the town were friendly, every pony saying hi to them as they walked by. They politely told them where the hotel was so they could rent some rooms and where the sheriff's office was since he oversaw the town right now. Naruto had Stygian and Aurora rent 2 rooms while he and Kurama spoke to the sheriff about the town's monster problem. Naruto and Kurama walked down to the sheriff's office. They were stopped by a small group of townsfolk. An earth pony stallion stepped forward. He had sandy brown fur coloring and chestnut brown mane. He was wearing a black vest over a red shirt and matching black pants. He wore a pair of worn cowboy boots. He stuck out his hand high. My name is Dusty Winds. You're the monster hunter here to take care of our problem. Naruto shook his head in return. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and this is my partner Kurama. Yes, we're here to deal with the monsters that are threatening your town. We already know one of the monsters. Has any pony seen or can give me a description of the other monster? The ponies were happy that he was there to deal with their monster problem. The Diablos had come close to the town on several occasions and were worried that it may attack the town itself. Dusty stepped forward after talking with the others. Sorry, but no pony has gotten a good look at the other monster. It disappears as soon as any pony gets close to it. Sheriff Silver Star should have information on the monster locations since he has been marking where they have been spotted on a map in his office. Thank you for the information. I'm headed towards his office to speak with him. At the same time I will check out the map and try and pinpoint the monster's location, Naruto replied. The villagers waved him off wishing him and the others good luck on their hunt. He soon reached the sheriff's office. He went inside to find him working at his desk signing papers. He was an earth stallion with dusty gray fur and mahogany mane and a black mustache. He wore a black cowboy hat with red banding, a red scarf and blue vest over a white button-up shirt and deep brown pants. Naruto walked up towards the desk and introduced himself. Hello, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I hear you have a monster problem that needs solving. Silver Star tipped his hat at Naruto. You are correct about our monster problems. My name is Silver Star and I would like to welcome you to Appaloosa. Both stallions shook hands before sitting down. Naruto was the first one to speak up wanting to find out about the monsters. I already spoke to a few of the villagers. They say that you have been marking locations of where the Diablo has been seen. If you can show me the map that will allow us to pinpoint the monster's nest and make finding it a lot easier, Naruto said. Silver Star scratched his chin and thought, I do have the map like you said. I have been marking where the Diablo has been spotted. There is also another monster on the loose. This one we haven't identified due to the fact we haven't gotten a clear look at it. It causes destruction in its wake and always goes after our food storages for some reason and has been seen eating the local wildlife on multiple occasions. Silver Star got up and retrieved a bag from a cabinet behind him. He dumped the bag on the desk, revealing its contents to be a handful of scales. The scales were a dark forest green and were very thick, meaning that the monster's hide would be impossible to cut through with an ordinary weapon. Naruto knew that this monster would be difficult to fight based on the thickness of its scales. He would send the others after Diablos while he dealt with this monster. He knew that the Diablos would be challenging to Stygian and Aurora because they never hunted the monster before. The tracker flies immediately swarmed the scales, familiarizing themselves with the scent of the monster. This would allow them to track the monster in the field. Silver Star was surprised when the tracker flies appeared and started glowing. He backed away from the desk until the flies retreated into their hive. What was that all about? Those weird flies suddenly appeared and swarmed the scales for whatever reason. Silver Star asked. They are called tracker flies. They track the scent of a monster through its tracks and other items and lead me to the monster, Naruto replied. Those are some useful bugs then. They gain the scent of the monster and then lead you to the monster, Silver Star said. Their ability to track through scents comes naturally to them. I was told of them and their ability by a friend who knew that they would be especially useful to me. If you can show me the map, me and my team can get started on dealing with your monster problem, Naruto replied. Naruto scanned the map and thanked Silver Star for his help. The sheriff waved him off saying he can repay him by taking care of the threats to his town since they were beyond his abilities. Naruto and Kurama left Silver Star's office and made their way to the hotel to meet up with the Stygian and Aurora were at. They would prepare their gear, then head out to the Badlands to deal with the monsters. As they reached the hotel, they found Aurora and Stygian waiting for them in the lobby. They waved them over as other ponies whispering about them. Naruto heard the mares say how handsome he was and how they wished they could spend a night with him. Naruto shook his head. He has heard mares saying similar things before. He chose to ignore them and focus on the situation at hand. Did the sheriff have any information on the mystery monster? Aurora asked. Unfortunately, no, he did have scales from the unknown monster. My flies already familiarized the scent of the monster. You and Stygian will hunt the Diablos. This will be a good challenge for the two of you, since you never fought one before, Naruto said. Cool, Stygian said. This should be fun, Aurora replied. Be careful, Diablos is an aggressive monster that prefers attacking from underneath you and charging at you and swing its tail at you after its charge, Kurama said. Thanks for the info, good luck on your own hunt, Stygian said. Stygian and Aurora headed out. The Diablos was spotted in the northern parts of the Badlands near a large plateau area which was above a network of interconnecting caves. Naruto and Kurama would head east to the locations where the mystery monster was sighted and look for tracks and anything else that would lead them to the monster. Naruto brought out his retrieval, which was a unique weapon he made. The weapon required enormous skill to use it to its full potential. The blades were made from a unique metal that he found in a meteorite. They easily cut through even the strongest materials, which includes monster hides. Naruto remembers using the retrieval and Aoi Harem in different hunts against several different monsters. Both weapons cut through the hardened scales or natural armor the wyverns have. Naruto and Kurama soon reached a large canyon path. Tall canyon walls were on the left side of the path, while the right side expanded outward to another path, with a river dropping of a cliffside. The two soon spotted tracks of the monster and let the tracker flies light up the path to the monster. Naruto and Kurama followed the footsteps to a large flat area. There were several small stone platforms. They looked like they were larger in the past, but were knocked down by something big because of the damage surrounding them. Kurama walked over to a canyon wall and noticed strange marks on it. Upon closer examination, the marks were scratch marks coming from the wyvern that they were hunting. The journal hadn't revealed the identity of the monster, which was unusual because it didn't take this long to id the monster, but Naruto shook his head to rid himself of those thoughts and focus on the task at hand. The damage here was recently done. Our target must have just passed through this area. The tracks continue leading further into the canyon. Whatever the monster is, it's big and powerful, Kurama said. Agreed, this will be a difficult hunt. We will have to be careful when we fight it, Naruto replied. The two moved forward to continue down the path when they were ambushed by a large creature dropping down from above. The creature meant to crush its prey beneath its feet but missed. It followed up with a charge attack, slamming into Kurama and sending him flying into the canyon wall. Naruto turned to his partner Kurama. The monster walked on all fours and had dark red scales and possessed a dual set of claws. The monster resembled a dog with a club-like tail. It stared at Naruto looking at newest prey. Naruto noticed that it had been fighting something because of the fresh scares it bore. The monster let loose a loud roar, then charged towards Naruto. He dodged to the right, swinging his blade and leaving deep gashes on its right side. The wound did little to stop the monster as it charged again, catching Naruto with its claw and pinning to the ground. The monster then tried to bite Naruto, but was stopped when Naruto fired a flash pod with his free arm, blinding the monster and freeing him from its clutches. Naruto took advantage of the monster's blindness to grab Kurama and move him to a safe location. Naruto placed Kurama on the ground and brought out a vial of smelling salts to revive his partner. It took a few seconds until Kurama came around. Ugh, my head, what slammed into me? Kurama asked. It was an Odogaron. It dropped down on us and slammed you into a wall, knocking you out, Naruto replied, putting his hand on his partner's shoulder. Kurama looked up at Naruto, knowing that he was trying to comfort him because the monster managed to get the drop on him. It was a blow to his pride that he let himself get taken so easily, so he was glad his friend had his back when he needed it. They decided to ready themselves for the second round against the beast. Naruto brought out several bars that cured the high bleeding the Odogaron caused when it struck its prey. Naruto was choosing to stick with his retrieval. The blades could be charged with different elements, allowing Naruto to use them on a variety of monsters. Kurama chose to bring out his dual blades. Each blade was infused with a different element. The left one was dark yellow blade with a spiked wing on one side of the blade and a ring of fur acting as the handle guard. The other blade was an icy blue color and was set in a jagged edge shape. The blades were infused with lightning and ice. Naruto readied a small set of kunai with explosive tags hanging from the ring handle. Once the Odogaron was inside, he threw the weapons. The blades pierced its scaly side and then exploded, knocking the monster off its feet. Naruto and Kurama ran forward and started attacking with swift attacks, Naruto focusing on the head while Kurama took the tail. It didn't last for long as the Odogaron quickly rose to its feet and charged towards the duo. The Odogaron tried to devour Naruto, but he caught the monster with both hands, holding onto Odogaron's jaws. Kurama jumped onto Odogaron's back and started hacking away at its back. The monster broke free of Naruto's hold and slammed its tail into Naruto, sending him skidding along the ground before he quickly flipped himself over and back onto his feet. Kurama was knocked off when a Doggerin slammed into a wall. Kurama quickly struck back with an ice jutsu. Ice style. Ice boulder. Kurama cried out as a large boulder made of ice slammed into a Doggerin and knocked it to the ground. Naruto followed up with a technique of his own, ice style. Twin ice dragons. Naruto said as two ice dragons came from his hands and struck the downed Doggerin. Both dragons bit into its body, then slammed it into a canyon wall. The Doggerin was slow to climb to its feet, ice had formed on several parts of its body. Naruto and Kurama readied themselves for the battle to continue, but no pony noticed the large shadow of a hidden creature that had been watching the battle from the beginning. Before Naruto and Kurama could launch their next attack against a Doggerin, another monster decided to crash the party. The new monster grabbed a Doggerin by its neck and slammed back and forth before slamming to the ground. The severe thrashing was enough to finish off the weakened monster. The new one was a massive beast that was covered in dark green scales. It had strange glowing lines or veins running down its neck. Its lower jaw and chin were covered in yellow protruding spikes. Naruto checked the journal to find out what the creature was. The monster was called a Deviliho. It was known for its unending appetite and its extremely aggressive behavior. The journal talked about how the monster is a threat to the ecosystem due to the fact it never stops eating and will devour everything in its sight. Naruto readied himself. He could see that the Deviliho was preparing to charge at him. Naruto dodged left and struck at Deviliho's legs with several slashes, leaving deep cuts on them, before having to roll away to avoid getting hit by the Deviliho's stomp attacks. Naruto readied a new attachment for his grapple launcher. It marked a spot on the monster, and the marked spot would make the monster suffer critical or double damage when struck. Naruto took aim and locked onto the Deviliho's head, then fired. The grapple latched onto Deviliho's head, and Naruto used his blades to cut deeply into Deviliho's skull. Naruto prepared a final charged strike with lighting chakra channeled into the blade for extra damage, since the Deviliho was weak to lighting. Naruto let loose a multi-hit spin attack on the head, knocking Deviliho to the ground, but only for a moment. It quickly rose up, and Naruto began noticing that certain parts on the Deviliho were switching, being between the monster's natural green and red for some reason. Naruto remembered that when the Deviliho glowed red, it entered its rage state. In this state, the Deviliho would be more aggressive and attack relentlessly. It would also use its breath attack, which was extremely dangerous because the breath attack could inflict dragon blight on the victim. Dragon blight was a medical condition that can weaken any affected by it. While treatment of the condition was available, it was still dangerous to every pony who got hit by it. The Deviliho roared, then charged at Naruto. He rolled to the right to dodge, but was slammed into the canyon wall by its tail. Kurama fired a flash pot at Deviliho to draw its attention away from Naruto. Kurama fired off a powerful lighting jutsu, lighting style. Flock of crows. The jutsu formed a large group of crows that exploded on contact with Deviliho. Deviliho soon puffed up its cheeks and then fired off a red and black mist. The attack struck Kurama, hitting him with dragon blight. Naruto, seeing what happened, immediately charged up his blade with lighting chakra and got into his piecing charge stance. He launched himself at Deviliho. The force of the impact caused Deviliho to be sent flying across the area. Naruto grabbed a null berry from his medical pouch and gave the recovering Kurama to a clone to get him out of harm's way. This way Kurama could recover his strength and rejoin the battle. The Deviliho let loose a furious roar before charging towards Naruto. The Deviliho then fired off another breath attack that forced Naruto into the air. Naruto could see the Deviliho looking at him from the ground below. Despite the wounds from the earlier attacks, the Deviliho was still eager to go. Naruto dived bomb, then mounted Deviliho. He focused on the tail, hacking away with his knife. The Deviliho had other ideas and slammed its tail and Naruto into a rock pillar. The attack sent Naruto's blade sliding across the ground. "Fine then, we'll do this the old-fashioned way," Naruto shouted. Naruto rushed forward and struck with a multi-hit combo, his hands coated in lighting chakra. Naruto continued his assault with a viscous haymaker on Deviliho's face. The attack knocked Deviliho to the ground. He then took to the air and surrounded himself with lighting chakra before slamming down on Deviliho with a large explosion. The Deviliho rose to its feet and let loose a furious roar that deafened and stunned Naruto for a sec because he was close to Deviliho when it roared. The Deviliho leaned forward and charged towards Naruto, but Naruto had a plan and started leading Deviliho on a chase to the nearby canyon wall. Naruto ran towards the canyon wall with Deviliho right behind him. Naruto ran up the wall while Deviliho crashed into it. Naruto jumped on Deviliho's back and placed several bomb tags before jumping off and detonating them with a furious roar. The explosion threw the Deviliho off its feet and onto the ground. Naruto channeled lighting chakra into the Rikuyo and focused on the head, striking hard with both blades in combination before overcharging the blades with chakra. Naruto raised both blades into the air before slamming them into the Deviliho's head, causing huge damage to the monster and making it scream in pain. The Deviliho got to its feet and roared at Naruto. Naruto then noticed that the Deviliho began swelling up in certain areas, as well as changing from green to glowing red in the same areas. Naruto dived at Deviliho, his blades at the ready to strike the stunned Deviliho, swiftly rose up and slammed its tail into Naruto, sending him skidding along the ground before flipping himself back on its feet. Naruto prepped himself for the endgame. He summoned several clones. One set up a pit trap to immobilize the Deviliho, while the rest began charging up either magic for spells or chakra for jutsu. Naruto readied himself in front of the trap. He made 2 clones to cast lighting spells while he readied his lighting jutsu. Naruto fired a bomb pod at Deviliho, drawing its attention and making it come running towards him, triggering the trap when it walked on the detonator. The trap made a large hole underneath Deviliho, trapping its legs underground and leaving it open to attack. The clones fired their lighting spell simultaneously. The spell took the forms of 2 dragons made of lighting, shooting up into the air before slamming down onto Deviliho. Naruto readied his attack, which in his hands looked like a light blue orb with a midnight azure diamond appearing on one side, giving it the appearance of an eye. Naruto took aim, then released the attack lighting style. Dragon's Eye, the orb grew to enormous eyes before crashing into Deviliho and then detonating. The jutsu caused a large dust cloud to erupt around Deviliho, so Naruto couldn't tell if Deviliho was still living or not. As he made his way to the spot, Deviliho burst out of the cloud and was headed straight for Naruto. He readied himself by channeling lighting magic into his blades, making them longer and glow neon blue. Naruto dodged to the right and slashed at Deviliho's side, causing deep lacerations. Naruto didn't let up and continued striking with unrelenting force, moving around with each hit to avoid all Deviliho's attacks. To any pony seeing the battle, all they would see is the flashes of light each time Naruto struck. When Naruto stopped the onslaught, Deviliho was covered in numerous wounds from Naruto's attack. In order to finish the battle, Naruto readied another spell. He sheathed his blades and formed an orb of pure lighting energy in his hands. The ball grew in size until it was the size of a beach ball. Then Naruto threw the spell at Deviliho. Crashing lighting sphere, the spell carved a path on the ground as it headed towards its target before striking Deviliho, sending it flying across the area. Deviliho landed on the other side of the area. Naruto rushed towards it, not wanting to give Deviliho a chance to escape. As soon as Naruto landed in front of it, Deviliho rose to its feet once again. Both warriors stared at each other before Deviliho's body gave out and it collapsed for the final time. Naruto sighed to himself. He checked himself to make sure he had no injuries that needed immediate attention. The Deviliho had gotten several solid hits on him, and its strange breath attack had him the most concerned, because when he looked at where the attack landed, it looked like the life had been drained from impact sites. Naruto sealed away the corpse and made his way over to his friend. There he found his friend awake and alert. This was good news to Naruto because that meant his friend was okay and in decent shape. "How are you doing?" Naruto asked. Kurama rubbed his head. "I'm still a bit sore and not happy about being taken out so easily." Naruto waved him off and then placed a hand on Kurama. "Don't let it get to you, it can happen to the best of us at any time." "What was the monster you fought against?" Kurama asked. "It's called a Deviliho, a type of brute wyvern. The journal talks about how the monster has a bottomless appetite and will eat anything it can and could do extremely levels of damage to the world if left unchecked," Naruto replied. Naruto finished patching up Kurama and the two headed back to the town. If the others needed help, they would signal them. But Stygian and Aurora. The two were following the tracks of their prey down a canyon path. They had found tracks from other monsters, which wasn't that surprising because some monsters preferred to roam the lands rather than staying in one spot. From a distance they saw the buffalo tribes who also live close to the town. Naruto didn't have much information on the tribe, so they kept their distance. The two decided to make small talk about different things as they walked. They also collected ore from mining outcrops and other materials that Naruto could use to upgrade their weapons and armor. "What does say about Diablos?" Naruto talked about how aggressive it is and how it constantly attacks its prey with a mix of charge attacks and striking from below, Stygian said. Aurora opened up her journal to the section on Diablos, a desert wyvern that takes its name from the giant horns that crown its head. Like the monoblos, the Diablos charges its prey or strikes from underground, moving more quickly once it is angered. Their sensitive ears make them susceptible to sonic bombs. According to the journal, the Diablos is weak to the ice element. "We'll have to be careful not to be caught in its charge attacks, and we got sonic bombs to use against it when it goes underground," Aurora replied. Both hunters began prepping their gear that they would need for the fight, first selecting their weapons and armor, then gear the two would use. Stygian brought out his Frost Blaze 3 along with Kashala Glare Alpha, Damascus Vambraces Alpha plus Frost Charm 3 Legiona Male, Alpha plus Glavinus Greaves Beta plus Nergigante Coil Alpha. Aurora decided to use Harem Aspire for her weapon, and Kashala Glare Alpha, Frost Charm 3 Damascus Coil Beta, Gyra Greaves Alpha, Acidic Lavinus Male Alpha Plus. The duo readied several sonic bombs to drive the Diablos to the surface if he went underground and readied healing potions and other potions to help them in the upcoming battle. The two hunters discovered fresh horn marks from their prey on a nearby canyon wall and footsteps that would lead them to their target. Both hunters exchanged a glance before starting down the path that was marked by glowing footprints. Stygian and Aurora soon reached a massive area. The terrain was made up of loose sand and rock pillars rising from the ground. There were several plants including multiple cactus plants from tall and thin ones to short and round. The tracks they were following disappeared upon entering the area. The Diablos must have gone underground to hide itself. Let's look for an entrance to an underground cavern. I remember Naruto saying that there was a network of caves underneath the surface of this area, Stygian said. Agreed, watch your footing, the sand can be treacherous at times, Aurora replied. The two split up to search the area quickly, however before they could get too far, they were suddenly blitzed by a Barith that came charging in from an unknown location. The two rolled in different directions to avoid the charge. Aurora fired off a large ice ball that slammed into the Barith's side, causing it to roar in pain. Stygian leapt into the air and slammed his blade into the Barith's head and then followed up with a charged ice jutsu, ice style. Icicle Crash. The attack caused a set of ice spikes to appear on both sides of the Barith and then slammed into its side, knocking to the ground. Stygian and Aurora slowly approached the downed monster. As they got closer to it, the ground began to shake underneath them. The shaking soon suddenly stopped, but was followed by a loud explosion and something appearing from underneath the Barith and pulled it underground. Unfortunately for Stygian and Aurora, the unknown monster created a sinkhole, dragging the two hunters into a massive underground cavern. As the two looked around for their prey, they saw the corpse of the Barith off to the side of the cavern. The ground then began to shake as the unknown monster made it to the surface with a powerful explosion that rocked the cavern. Played Diablo's intro from Monster Hunter World. Aurora and Stygian exchanged a glance before readying themselves for the fight to start. Diablos made the first move, starting off with a reckless charge, its front horns lowered, hoping to spear its prey. Aurora rolled to the right of the charge and struck back, slicing both legs of the Diablos, leaving deep gashes and causing it to crash into a rock pillar. Stygian follows up with his own attack, slamming his blade down onto the Diablo's back. Having taken to the air to avoid the charge attack, he focused on weakening the sturdy back armor to expose the softer tissue. Stygian leapt into the air after planting multiple ice bombs on Diablo's back. He joined up with Aurora on the ground before detonating the bombs. The bombs destroyed the monster's hardened scales on its back and weakened its wings so it could no longer fly. Aurora summoned several ice spears and fired them at the Diablos. The Diablos retreated underground before the spears could hit. It then reappeared underneath the two hunters, catching them off guard and grabbing Stygian, while Aurora was slammed into the cavern wall by the Diablo's axe tail and was covered in rubble. Stygian fired off a flash pot at Diablos, blinding it and releasing him from the monster's grasp. Aurora appeared from underneath the rubble, surrounded in an energy bubble. The two retreated to a hidden ledge to recover from their wounds. The monster is as dangerous as Naruto said. He wasn't kidding at how dangerous Diablos is to hunt, Aurora said. Stygian nodded his head in agreement. The monster is relentless in its attacks and caught us off guard with that last attack, Stygian replied. The two downed a mid-level potion each and then sharpened their weapons. The two looked at each other, exchanged a nod, and then leapt back into the fight. Aurora used her phase walk ability to sneak up on the Diablos and mount its head with a well-timed grapple shot. She struck hard with her knife to remove the hardened scales and create an opening for a critical hit attack on the target. Stygian was waiting for Aurora to finish, then he would fire off a charged-up ice jutsu upon the vulnerable target. Aurora struck on the exposed areas with a charged spin attack, striking multiple areas on the head and breaking off a horn. Aurora disappeared once again as Stygian let the ice jutsu he was charging loose upon Diablos. Ice style. Hailstorm shard, Stygian cried out as several large shards of ice struck the wounded Diablos, causing numerous wounds upon the monster and frost buildup, slowing down the monster and making it easier to fight against. Aurora fired a spell of her own, Roaring Gale of the Frozen Tundra, Aurora said as a freezing gale slammed into Diablos, causing more ice to form on the creature, forming on its wings and its open wounds. The Diablos roared in pain and fury as it freed itself from its icy prison. It then chose to retreat underground and away from the hunters to survive the fight. Aurora and Stygian chased after it, not wanting the chance to let their prey escape and cause any more damage for any pony else. They chased the monster into a smaller cavern that had sand waterfalls in multiple spots surrounding the cavern. The two went back to back to prevent Diablos from blindsiding either of them. Diablos emerged from a sand waterfall with a rushing charge attack. Aurora countered with a flash pod blinding the monster before Stygian ran forward and struck Diablos in the head with a charged swing of his blade. The attack hit hard, leaving a massive gash across Diablo's face and severing his other horn. Aurora and Stygian regrouped and prepped themselves to end the fight. Stygian to the air and flew above Diablos, focusing on the weakened spot on its back, while Aurora readied one more spell. Howling glacial spears, Aurora cried out as several enormous spears made of ice pierced through Diablo's weakened scales and pined it down and unable to move. Ice style. Frozen impact, Stygian said as he dove towards the Diablos, his blade sinking deeply into the monster, and then an explosion followed afterwards, finishing off the monster. The Diablos collapsed to the ground and didn't rise, signaling the end of the hunt. Aurora and Stygian exchanged a fist bump to celebrate their victory over the new monster. "Well, that went well, wouldn't you say?" Aurora asked. "Yeah, it shows that all the training Naruto put us through is paying off," Stygian replied. Stygian sealed up the Diablo's corpse as Aurora prepped to teleport the two of them back to the town. A flash of blue light and they were gone. They reappeared outside the town's entrance and saw Naruto and Kurama waiting for them, discussing something they had encountered on their way back. Naruto saw them and waved them over. "How did your hunt go? Did you have any problems?" Naruto asked. "We didn't have any problems, it caught us off guard when it first appeared. Stygian and I hammered it with strong attacks and prevented it from getting a chance to get its footing," Aurora said. "What about you guys, what was your monster like?" "We didn't have any information on the monster and you warned us about going into a situation blind," Stygian said. Naruto nodded his head. He taught Aurora and Stygian the dangers of going into something with little or no facts. There would be times where that happens, but you would have little choice to prepare yourself for the unknown and whatever awaited you. The monster was a deviliho, a deadly monster with a limitless appetite. According to the journal, it's always hungry and will eat anything in sight. It also possesses a dangerous breath ability that can severely weaken a pony if caught in it. We had to fight an Odogaron first. I believe that the deviliho was pursing it when it ran into us," Naruto said. Aurora and Stygian were shocked by what Naruto said. They knew that there was always a chance for another monster to appear on a hunt. The two monsters could start fighting one another, leaving you stuck in the middle of the fight. "What were the two of you discussing when we approached? It looked like you found something that's bugging you. Is it more traces from our mystery elder dragon?" Aurora asked. Starting a few months ago, they began finding small traces of a mystery elder dragon. They haven't been able to identify it because of what little traces they found. At the same time, monster attacks have been on the rise in several of the attack signs from the mystery elder dragon and had been found but haven't identified it. They also began to find strange glowing crystals in areas with monsters. They knew that the crystals were a form of crystallized energy. The energy in the crystals seemed familiar to Naruto, but he was unable to discover the source of them and figure out whether they were connected to the monster activity or whether they related to something else. "Yes, we found more scales and a corpse of where it feed, but still nothing on what it is other than it's an elder dragon. I don't like this. I don't want to risk some ponies stumbling across either of them and getting hurt or worse from the beast," Naruto said, angry for being unable to discover who these mystery monsters were. Kurama patted Naruto's arm, wanting to reassure his friend. He knew that Naruto was frustrated with the lack of information, but he could help Naruto by preventing him from growing too frustrated from the lack of knowledge. Aurora and Stygian could easily see the annoyance on Naruto's face because of what little information they had on the elder dragon that had been causing such a major uptake in monster activity. They knew that they couldn't be everywhere at once and had witnessed Naruto forsaking sleep for a week to hunt down monsters that had been spotted near town or attacking them. "We'll worry about that later. Tomorrow we head for Canterlot and have our first meeting with Princess Celestia. I'm already nervous about telling her everything because I withheld information in the past. Hopefully, she will allow me to explain my reasons before getting annoyed with me," Naruto said. Stygian approached Naruto and placed his hand on Naruto in a reassuring him manner. "She is known for being understanding. The reasons why you didn't tell her everything was you didn't think that she would believe you. We didn't at first until you showed us the truth about everything." Aurora nodded her head. "Stygian is right. From what I've heard from every pony, Celestia is seen as a kind and understanding mare. I fully believe that she will understand once you have told her the truth." Naruto smiled at his companions. They always had his back when he was nervous or unsure about a decision. "Thanks for the support. For now, let's grab a few drinks before heading to bed. It's already twilight outside, so let's relax and enjoy ourselves tonight to celebrate a good hunt. I will meet you three there because I need to report to Silver Star about the monsters being taken care of." Naruto soon found himself outside the sheriff's office, Silver Star coming out the door, locking up for the night. "Naruto, you're back. Should I take this as a sign that the monsters are taken care of?" Silver Star asked. Naruto nodded his head. "The monsters are dead. You and the rest of the town ponies don't have to worry about them anymore." Silver Star face lit up in joy, he was happy at the fact the residents of Appaloosa could sleep soundly at night without the need to fear a monster attack. Silver Star invited Naruto over to the saloon to have a drink on him to celebrate. The group headed toward the local bar where the residents of the town were waiting for them to celebrate and thank them for saving their town. A while later Naruto was relaxing at the bar with Kurama next to him as they watched every pony celebrated. They could see Stygian shyly asking Aurora for a dance. They knew that he had a crush on her and tried to help him out, but they could easily see that it was needed. Naruto was always glad to see so many ponies happy and safe. There had been times in the past where he had been too late and the monster attacked and ponies had gotten hurt and worse. So, he was happy to see no pony hurt from a monster attack. The cough next to him drew his attention. It was Sheriff Silver Star. I wanted to personally thank you for the help that you and the others have given us. I don't want to think what would have happened if the monsters had attacked the town and the residents have gotten hurt or worse. Naruto nodded his head, he fully understood the sheriff's worries. I know how you feel, there have been times we have arrived after the monster attacked, the aftermath is not a pretty sight to deal with. Both ponies looked out at the parting ponies, every pony was having a grand time. Silver Star and Naruto exchanged smirks. The two would exchange stories with one another, Silver Star talking about dealing with bandits and other criminals, while Naruto talked about previous hunts. They would continue talking until a group of mares saw the three of them and pulled them onto the dance floor for a fun time. The party didn't end until several hours later with every pony heading home for the night. The hunting group was no exception. Stygian was carrying Aurora piggyback style, the alcohol and dancing wearing her out. Aurora suddenly started licking Stygian's neck and slightly nipping at it, causing him to turn several shades of red. Kurama and Naruto had to stifle their giggles at the scene, otherwise they would ruin the moment, not to say they weren't covered in their own marks. Several mares had kissed Naruto on the lips and face to thank him for getting rid of the monsters, and others cuddled with Kurama finding the palico to be extremely adorable. The stallions in the room were more than a little jealous that they were hogging all the attention from the mares. Thankfully no pony started a fight. Naruto figured they weren't foolish enough to pick a fight with some pony that hunts down monsters for a living. The group soon made their way back to the hotel and collapsed on the bed. They all fell asleep quickly, but they knew tomorrow was going to be a big day for all of them. Naruto was awoken from his rest when he felt a presence nearby on the balcony. He quickly got up recognizing who his late-night visitor was. It's been a while since I saw her, I wonder if she was able to uncover any latest information, at least I know she is doing okay, Naruto thought to himself. As Naruto walked out onto the balcony, he saw a tall figure hiding in the shadows. He waited until she came into the light to start talking to her. The figure was a changeling queen, she was the leader of the White Hive until her hive was killed by an unknown pony. She came back from meeting with another queen to find her children massacred. She vowed vengeance on the one responsible for their deaths. Her name is Whispering Moonlight. She was wearing a black gothic dress and had glowing mane and tail. She had her weapon of choice in her left hand. The weapon was passed down to each generation of White Queens since the hive founding. Whisper had met Naruto when he and Kurama had saved her from being food for a monster. She was in bad shape from an earlier attack and wouldn't have survived if not for Naruto's timely intervention. When she told Naruto of the fate of her hive, Naruto pulled her clothes and let her vent everything that was building up inside of her since she found her children dead. She hadn't stopped moving, constantly chasing any lead she could on the one who killed her children. Naruto told her that he would be willing to help her find the pony responsible for the massacre. It was later discovered that the pony responsible for the massacre was a high-ranking member of the cult. He invited her to join the group he was forming to combat the cult to get revenge against the pony who stole everything from her. She would work as his informant, gathering information on the cult and alert him to any monsters that she encountered, and he would share any information she needed to unmask the pony who killed her family. I'm glad to see that you are doing well. Have you encountered any members of the cult or discovered any information related to them? Naruto asked. Whisper shook her head. No, the cult has been quiet, or they have been making their moves in other countries. I have heard rumors about strange occurrences in other nations, but nothing concrete's enough to warrant our attention. This was annoying to Naruto but not unaccepted. He knew that the group wouldn't always be making moves out in the open and had to uncover any information he could to find out their plans. Recently the cult had been capturing monsters for experimentation. One of the experiments was forming a chimera from different body parts of different monsters. The monster was killed by him, but he discovered that it was just a failed experiment and the cult was still working out the bugs of the project. How are the other changeling queens doing? I know you told me the cult is putting pressure on Chrysalis to join up with them. Naruto asked. Chrysalis may join up with them under protest, they are forcing her into serving them. The other queens remain hidden, waiting out and hoping to avoid putting their hives in danger. Chrysalis is one of the strongest queens and her hive is the biggest. The others are worried that if they fight, their hives will suffer, Whisper said. Naruto nodded his head in understanding. They want to protect their homes and colonies from harm. The other queens are acting as true leaders should act and put the welfare of their hives first and foremost. The two would continue to talk about different subjects for a little bit longer until Whisper knew it was time to leave. The two promised to meet up again, and Whisper wished him luck with his meeting Celestia tomorrow. As promised, he wouldn't tell Celestia about Whisper just yet. She was unsure on how the Sun Princess would react to her, considering the bad history between her and Chrysalis's mother, who tried to assassinate Celestia in a plan to conquer Equestria. Morning came far too quickly for the group. They ate breakfast and then readied everything so they could head to the train station and catch the train to Canterlot and meet with Celestia. Naruto had the papers needed in his coat pocket. Naruto wore a form-fitting forest green shirt and black pants. He had on his weathered black boots and wore his newly acquired duster and Stetson. Both were gifts from the town ponies for protecting them from the monsters. Hashirama was wearing his white leather vest and deep brown shorts, along with his leather cap with his googles. Stygian was dressed like Naruto, the only difference being his shirt was gray and his pants were a pair of blue jeans. Aurora was wearing a red t-shirt and a dark leather vest and a navy blue skirt that went past her knees. She was wearing a pair of cowmere boots that she bought. Every pony in town was at the train station to say farewell to the hunters. They waved to them even as the train pulled from the station. The smiles on the fillies and colts' faces made every pony's day. They were overjoyed to meet the hunters and hear stories about the monsters they had fought against. Every pony was sitting down. They all had a good time partying with the locals. Once the hunt was done, they would have to go back to visit every pony again. The fillies and colts wanting to hear more stories about them fighting monsters. We're defiantly going to make a return trip. The party they threw us was wild and the kids enjoyed hearing about our fights with monsters, Stygian said. Aurora nodded her head, agreed. The kids kept asking for more and more stories. They were so adorable. Perhaps when we have some downtime, we can make a return trip to Appaloosa. Hopefully, they won't have any problems from monsters for a long while, Naruto said. One thing Naruto would never get tired of was seeing the happy faces from the towns that safe from the monsters. He enjoyed protecting others, since he had the skills and abilities to do so. He and the team would also stay and help towns or cities that had suffered attacks before they could arrive and prevent any pony from being hurt. The group couldn't help but notice they were attracting a lot of attention from other ponies on the train. They were used to this because they attracted attention wherever they went. A small group of colts and fillies soon ran up to them asking them questions and wanting autographs. It took a few minutes to sign everything, but the little ones ran back to their parents clutching their autographs in their hands with big smiles on their faces. The fillies and colts always ran up to them asking for stories or feel samples from the different monsters they had. They enjoyed touching and looking at the different samples of skin and broken teeth or scales that he collected. Naruto gave them souvenirs of different monsters to take home with them. The group soon parted, leaving Naruto and the others to relax and wait for the train to arrive in Canterlot and their important meeting. Naruto dipped his hat down over his eyes to relax and take a light nap, while the others were playing a round of cards to pass the time. Aurora and Stygian also noticed they attracted a lot of attention from mares and stallions. Both had tried to flirt with them only to be shot down, and others being forced away when they couldn't take the message. Naruto woke up when the train started slowing down. Soon afterwards the conductor announced that the Canterlot stop was coming up shortly. "Heads up you three, our stop is coming up, so ready your gear and prepare to leave," Naruto said. The others put the cards away and grabbed their luggage as the train slowed down to a stop at Canterlot. As they got off the train, they noticed how beautiful the city was, and they also saw the castle in the distance on the mountainside. "The town is very nice, but some of the ponies give off an air of arrogance, so you may want to be careful," Naruto said. The others nodded. They had encountered nobles before, and some of them gave them no end of complaints from them. Most of them being how unrefined the group was and how Naruto refused to give them special treatment when protecting them during a monster attack, choosing to focus on others like the children and parents, as well as the injured and elderly. The group started walking towards the castle. Already ponies were talking about them. Some were wondering if they were here to see Princess Celestia, others were saying how handsome Naruto and Stygian were and how beautiful Aurora is. There was also talk about Kurama and wondering what type of pet he was and if they could buy him from Naruto. Naruto just shook his head at this and chose to ignore what the ponies were saying and continued to the castle entrance. The group soon reached the entrance guarded by the royal guard. They wore identical armor and were both earth ponies. One stepped forward to meet the group. "I'll state your business here or move along," the guard said. Naruto stepped forward and presented the papers Celestia had sent him. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and the group with me is here to see Princess Celestia. These papers should prove my claims." The guard took the papers from Naruto and examined them. He saw that Naruto was telling the truth. "These papers are in order. I'll have a guard escort you to Her Majesty who is in the throne room," the guard said. "Thank you for your help, Sir Guard," Naruto replied. The group was led to the throne where upon entering saw Princess Celestia for the first time. She was sitting on her throne with a unicorn guard on either side of her. They felt the mothering aura that she gave off. She was wearing her regalia along with a white dress that showed off her curvy figure. While the group was observing Celestia, she was examining the group. Since she first heard from the Fairy King, she had been closely monitoring the hunters to find out more about them. She heard numerous stories of Naruto fighting the strange and usual monsters plaguing her land. Celestia would discover that Naruto was a kind and caring pony. There were times where he would refuse payment from a town that had suffered from a monster attack and had instead stayed with the town and helped them rebuild and recover. She had seen the hunters grow from a single pony, the group that was before her, along with a few others Naruto trained to wander around the different lands hunting monsters and gathering information on the ones behind their current problems. "I welcome you to Canterlot. I can't thank you enough for all the times you and the others have saved and protected my citizens from harm from not only the monsters but the followers of the cult," Celestia said. Naruto and the others bowed in respect to Princess Celestia. Naruto readied himself for what was to come. "Princess Celestia, when I first sent a letter to you explain my history and about myself, I kept certain things secret because I was unsure if you would believe me if I told you. The first is the easier to display," Naruto said. Celestia was curious as to what he meant. Her question was answered when Naruto showed off his wings to the ponies in the room. It signified that Naruto was not a unicorn that they thought he was, but an alicorn like Princess Celestia. The guard in the room were unable to hide the shock at what they were seeing. They suspected that Naruto was the farthest thing from an average unicorn, but this was not something they suspected in a million years. Princess Celestia was also caught off guard. She never would have thought that Naruto was an alicorn, but in some way the clues were there in some form. She realized that Naruto was right, and she wouldn't have believed that he was an alicorn if he had written such a thing in his letters. Naruto stepped forward. "I'm sorry for hiding the fact I was an alicorn all along, but I was unsure if you would believe me." Celestia calmed down from the shock. She understood why Naruto hid this fact from her and was glad he was being truthful from the beginning instead of trying to hide the facts until they were revealed later. Celestia smiled at Naruto. "Thank you for being truthful from the get-go. I understand that you are an alicorn would be hard for any pony to believe unless they met you face to face." Naruto was happy at the fact Celestia wasn't upset with him for hiding the truth. She also understood why he kept the information a secret. Now he had to tell her how he came to Equestria in the first place. "There is one other thing that I need to tell you. It involves how I came to this world for my original one," Naruto said. Celestia was confused at what Naruto said. "What do you mean, Naruto?" "I came from another world. I was brought to this one by the same cult that is running rampant in your lands. Their original goal was to have me serve them, but something went wrong with their portal and the cult members that caught me were killed while I was pulled through to your world," Naruto replied. Celestia and the guard in the room were surprised at what Naruto had said. There had been several cases of portals opening and strange unknown creatures coming through. The majority of what came through was proven to be hostile in nature and started attacking and harming any pony nearby. Celestia realized this fact answered a lot of the questions she had in her mind about Naruto, especially since he came from nowhere and started hunting monsters and fighting the cultists. Celestia tried to find information regarding Naruto, but couldn't find anything older than when he first appeared in the Fairy Kingdom. "Naruto, thank you for being honest with me. I want to know if you're willing to go through with what I had asked you and help me create a new branch of military to deal with the monster threat," Celestia asked. "Yes, I will help you. There had been several cases of when me and Kurama had arrived too late to help a town that had been attacked by a monster. It would be beneficial if there were more hunters to handle multiple target," Naruto said. Celestia stood up. "As much as I want to continue this conversation, I must leave you to attend a meeting with nobles, so I will have to leave you in other capable hands." Celestia motioned Naruto and the others to follow her. They headed out towards the gardens where the group saw another two ponies. One was a stallion with a two-toned mane white fur. He was wearing a set of dress clothes. The mare next to him had a multi-toned mane and tail like Celestia. She was wearing a pink shirt and lavender skirt. The two ponies were in deep conversation with one another when the stallion saw the group approaching and quickly stood at attention. "Princess Celestia, how can I be of service?" the stallion said. The mare just rolled her eyes at her cold friend's professionalism. "How can we help you out today, auntie?" The mare then noticed the group behind her and she knew that the famous monster was visiting today and figured that the tall stallion was the famous leader Naruto Uzumaki. "Are these the legendary monster hunters that we have heard so much about? Did you finish the meeting with them already?" the mare asked. Celestia shook her head. "I had to end the meeting earlier than I wanted because I have a meeting with the nobles. Candace, may I ask you in shining armor to show the group around the castle in my stead?" The couple looked at one another and talked about the current situation. Shining was annoyed with what Princess Celestia asked, only because this was cutting into his personal time with Candace, but he was a member of the royal guard, so that took priority over his personal life. And seeing Shining's downtrodden look gave him a kiss on the cheek to perk him up. She already knew what was going through his mind, she would have to make it up to him later. "We would be happy to do so, Auntie, wouldn't we, Shining?" Candace said while turning towards Shining. Shining nodded his head in understanding, knowing that Candace will try and make it up to him later, but for now they had job to do. "We would be honored to show them around the castle in your stead," Candace replied. "Thank you, Candace, I'm sorry that I interrupted your personal time with Shining to do this favor for me," Celestia said. She was annoyed at the fact the nobles called this meeting. She was also upset at the fact this was wasting her time for what no doubt will be a pointless meeting over a foolish matter. Celestia walked away to deal with the nobles. Every pony in the room could easily see that Celestia was annoyed at the current situation, but was unsure on what they could do to help her. And sighed to herself, "Well, for starters, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Candace, Princess of Love." Candace then motioned to Shining. "My companion is my cold friend Shining Armor, he is a member of the royal guard." Shining was blushing at what Candace said. Naruto and the others smiled at the couple's interaction. Aurora couldn't help but giggle at the sight before her. The handsome knight protecting the beautiful princess seemed like a fairy tale come true. Naruto coughed lightly to gain every pony's attention. "If you prefer, we can leave you two here and find another pony to escort us around." Candace immediately waved Naruto off. "That won't be necessary, Auntie asked us to do it, and we shall." Candace got to her feet along with Shining. Candace said there was some pony she wanted to check on, so they were headed to the library first. Along the way, Candace and Aurora started a conversation about her siren marks, while Shining and Stygian talked about some of the different monsters they have fought in the past. Shining also asked what type of teacher Naruto was, since he was the first hunter, and he and the others learned how to fight against monsters under his tutelage. Stygian explained how Naruto was a strict but fair teacher. He trained in multiple areas of hunting and tracking and learning how to use the tools and weapons of a hunter. Shining was surprised to find out the hunters use a variety of weapons to hunt monsters. He also learned about the different tools used by hunters, most of them Naruto had developed and created. "So like Naruto, you came from another world, Aurora?" Candace asked. Aurora nodded her head and thought about how the cultists brought her here and then tried to force her to be their puppet, but she refused to let them break her. "In the same way that Naruto came here, I was brought here by the cultists who wanted me for my abilities. They wanted to turn me into a slave for their goals, but my powers protected me from their plans," Aurora said as she looked sad, remembering those dark times before Naruto and Kurama rescued her. Candace and Shining were shocked to hear what happened to Aurora. They had heard from Celestia that both Stygian and Aurora had been through grim times before meeting up with Naruto. They didn't know the story behind either one because Celestia didn't want to talk about them. "We've all been through different events that left their own scars on us. We learned to use what happened to us strengthen us for what is to come," Naruto said. Aurora and Stygian could help but smile at what Naruto had said. He taught both not to let their pasts consume them, but use them to strengthen their wills and to continue pushing forward in life. Shining and Candace were shocked at what Naruto had said. They were unsure of what he went through to make him strong, but they were willing to bet it was more than an average pony can handle. The group soon found themselves at the entrance to the library. As they headed into the library, Naruto and the others couldn't help but be impressed at how large it was. Candace and Shining walked over to a table where several books were stacked upon it. As the group moved closer to the table, they saw who was reading all the books. It was a filly with purple fur and a dark bluish mane with a solid streak going through it. She was wearing a lavender sundress and was currently deeply enthralled in the book she was reading. Shining and Candace shared a glance, knowing that Twilight was a voracious reader and had the habit of tuning out the world around her when reading. Shining approached the table and in an older sibling moment snatched the book Twilight was reading out of her hands. Twilight turned to her brother with an annoyed look on her face. "Shining, why did you do that? I was just getting to the best part." Shining just waved off her frustration and pointed to the group. "Candace and I are showing the monster hunters around the castle and we wanted to introduce you to them." Twilight looked and seeing Candace ran up to her and the two did their little dance. Naruto, Stygian thought it was silly, but Aurora found it to be cute. Naruto could see the two possessed a strong bond. Candace explained how she was Twilight's full sitter and the two become fast friends soon after meeting one another. "Twilight, do you want to come with us on the tour so you can ask Naruto and the other hunters questions, or do you want to get back to your reading?" Candace asked. Twilight thought for a moment. "I want to stay here. I was enjoying the book until the big meanie took it away." Every pony but Shining chuckled at what Twilight said. Shining was pouting at being called a big meanie until Candace cheered him up. The group continued onward with a promise to see Twilight again at lunch with Celestia. Shining and Cadence continued with the tour. Naruto, Stygian, Aurora and Kurama asking different questions about different things related to the castle. The group soon reached the training grounds where there were a handful of squads running drills and doing their regular PT. It wasn't long before whispers and pointing soon started as the ponies noticed the legendary monster hunter Naruto Uzumaki and his partner Kurama, along with the new hunters Aurora and Stygian. They could hear whispers about how handsome Naruto and Stygian were from the mares, while the stallions were talking about how hot Aurora is in real life. Every pony was commenting on how adorable Kurama is. The whispering stopped when a stallion appeared on the field. He had a black fur tone and a gray mane and tail. He was dressed in the standard armor for the royal guard and was carrying his helmet under his right arm. Naruto could tell from the way he carried himself and the feeling he gave off that he was a high-ranking member of the guard. He was a veteran of many battles and some pony who didn't tolerate nonsense of any kind. Shining immediately saluted the stallion, "General Ironblood, what can I do for you?" "Shining armor, may I ask why you are escorting civilians around the castle?" Ironblood asked while keeping eye contact with Naruto. General Ironblood knew who this stallion was and what he was here for, but he would not be intimidated by Naruto just because he hunted monsters plaguing the lands. He would make sure that he would not tolerate any problems from him. Shining stepped forward. "Princess Celestia asked me and Cadence to show them around the castle. Naruto will be training ponies to hunt monsters." Ironblood said nothing at first. He was still focusing on Naruto, who was showing no signs of being intimidated by the general. "So, you're the pony I've been hearing so much about. Don't think for a moment that makes you better than every pony else. If you think you're going to get special treatment because your status, then think again," Ironblood said. Naruto merely raised an eyebrow. "If you think I've let the fame go to my head, you're wrong. Respect is something that is earned and not given freely." Ironblood said nothing but smirked and walked away. Every pony was shocked at what just happened because hardly any pony could look the general in the eye, let alone talk back to him. They couldn't help but be impressed with the leader of the hunters. "Naruto, that was amazing. I didn't think that any pony other than Princess Celestia could look General Ironblood in the eyes and not be intimidated by him," Shining said in an excited tone. Naruto just waved Shining off. "I'm used to dealing with arrogant ponies and other beings that have similar personalities to him. Let's continue onward with the tour." The tour continued onward with Stygian and Aurora bouncing questions off Shining and Cadence. Naruto and Kurama stayed towards the back, answering any questions that Shining and Cadence had for either of them. As they were walking down a long hallway, Naruto began to feel that something was off. His instincts were screaming at him to go somewhere. Naruto tapped Kurama on the shoulder and using hand signs, told him that he was going to check something out because his instincts were telling him to. Naruto quietly slipped away from the group. Kurama would just tell them the truth if he was asked where Naruto went. This wasn't the first time he and the others experienced this. There had been several cases of when Naruto and felt something was off, and it turns out to be something dangerous that they were unaware of. Naruto found himself back in the hallway leading to the library. He was wondering why his instincts were directing him here. It was a few steps later that he feels several dangerous corrupted magical signatures. It was coming from the library, which had him worried because he could feel 3 magical signatures inside, one being Twilight's. Naruto quickly wrote a note to Kurama that several members of the cult had infiltrated the castle and were in the library. He also wrote he could sense Twilight in the room with the cult members as well. Naruto sent the letter to Kurama using a spell, then he snuck into the library to find out the situation and get Twilight and any other ponies who may be in harm's way. Earlier in the library, Twilight was wrapping up the current book she was reading. It was one of the new arrivals to the library, and she wanted to finish reading it before meeting up with Cadence and Shining for lunch. As she dropped her books off at the librarian's desk, she began to hear strange noises from the back end of the library. Her natural curiosity got the better of her, so she went to investigate what the noises were and who was making them. Twilight peeked around a shelf to see a strange group tearing books off the shelf. One was a tall figure who was wearing black boots, black pants, and had strange black binding around his ankles. He was wearing a tannish brown straitjacket and a mask over his face. Another was a short creature that was wearing a black robe that covered his whole body. His hands were strange, because to Twilight, it looked like he had mouths on his hands. There were 2 other figures wearing cloaks. The magic presence they gave off felt wrong to Twilight. To Twilight, the strangers gave off an unsettling aura that was making her nervous. She would sneak away and find her Cadence, Shining, or Princess Celestia. Before she could do that, a member of the royal guard had appeared and was heading towards the group. "Hey, what are you lot doing? Why are you removing all these books from the shelves?" the guard asked, approaching the group. The tall figure turned towards the shorter one. "Take care of him before he brings any other guards here." The guard drew his blade. He didn't like what he felt from this group, but before he could make the call for reinforcements, the shorter figure stood before him. "Who are you? Stay back or I will use force," the guard said in a firm tone of voice. The short creature only continued moving closer to the guard. The guard reacted and swung his blade at the creature, knocking its head off. The head rolled to the guard's feet, revealing that it was a fake. The creature raised its hands with its palms open and facing the guard. To his shock and horror, the guard saw that there were mouths on both hands. Things got worse when the mouths started talking to him. "You had the grave misfortune of seeing us, but that will be taken care of shortly. My hunger has been annoying me for a while," the short figure said before grabbing the guard's head. To Twilight's horror, the short creature's hands glowed a sickly green color, and the guard was drained of his life, because when the creature removed his hands, only an empty husk remained of the guard in his armor. Twilight slowly backed away from the nightmarish sight. She was going to make a run for it once she was out of earshot, but as she backed up, she hit something. She looked up to find the other tall figure in the weird jacket looking down at her. Well, we have a little one who is being a naughty filly by listening in on adult conversations. We can't have that, so you'll have to come with us," the tall figure said while grabbing Twilight with his magic. Flashback end. Before he could carry Twilight too far, he was slammed into a shelf when a blast of magic hit him in the chest. Before Twilight could hit the ground, Naruto caught her. "Are you okay, Twilight? What happened here?" Naruto asked. Twilight buried her face in Naruto's chest. She was sobbing lightly as Naruto held her close and tried to get her to come down. Before she could say anything, Naruto jumped into the air, avoiding a wind blade that slashed through a bookshelf. Naruto formed a clone to get Twilight out of the danger zone while he fought the intruders. He formed a Rasengan and slammed it into the tall one's chest, slamming him into the wall next to the shorter one and the two cloaked figures. The shorter figure let out what seemed like a growl before ordering the two larger figures to deal with Naruto. He went to his ally and helped him to his feet. "Are you okay? This must be Naruto Uzumaki, the pony we were warned about, and the one that has been causing us so many problems," the shorter one said. "Agreed, he is not someone to be taken lightly. We will have to withdraw for now," the taller one replied. The figures shed their cloaks revealing their true appearance. Both were large crystal golems. Their crystals were a dark greenish color and radiated corrupted magic. They moved forward and slammed their fists down, missing Naruto. He then struck back, dodging a punch. Naruto broke one of the golem's arms at the elbow with a palm strike and then grabbed the severed arm and then slammed it into the other golem. Naruto continued with his assault, breaking one of the golem's knees and caused it to fall on the ground, then followed up with channeling Charka into his fist and slamming it into the golem's head and finishing off the first golem. Naruto turned to the other golem. He struck fast. Each blow he delivered hit with concussive force, leaving cracks on the crystal. Naruto ended the fight with one final charge attack to the head of the golem, ending the construct's life. Naruto turned to the remaining two being in the library. Naruto was trying to figure out not only their motive, but what they are. Both gave off strange auras like the crystals made from corrupted magic. "Who or what are you? Why did you sneak into this library?" Naruto asked. Earlier in the dining hall. The group minus Naruto had reached the dining hall and met up with Princess Celestia. Shining and Candace quickly gave a run through of what happened. "I'm grateful that you two did this for me, but you seem to have lost one of the groups. Where is Naruto?" Celestia asked. Both Shining and Candace turned around to the group only to see that Naruto was missing from the group. "When did Naruto leave the group?" Shining asked. Hashirama stepped forward. "Naruto left earlier because he felt that something was off in other part of the castle, so he went to investigate what it was." The others minus Aurora and Stygian wondered what drew Naruto's attention, while Aurora and Stygian weren't worried at all, having been through similar events while training and traveling under Naruto. Before any pony could say anything else, there was a small flash of light and a paper appeared in front of Kurama. Upon reading the note, he grew worried and ran over to Celestia. "Princess Celestia, we got problems. Naruto reported that there are 4 cultists that have managed to sneak into the castle library. They are searching for something," Kurama explained in a rushed tone of voice. Celestia immediately stood up and called for a squad of guards. "Let's not waste any time." Celestia teleported the group to the library and entered to find Naruto and a clone holding Twilight in his arms and facing off against the cultists. Present time. The taller one laughed at Naruto's questions before either could give a response. The royal guard along with Princess Celestia and the others arrived in the library. The shorter one looked at the guard, then back at his ally. He knew it was time to go. Their mission was a failure. "As much as we want to stay and chat, we have other priorities to take care of," the tall one said before wrapping him and his ally in a whirlwind and flew through the window. Before any of the Pegasus could take to the air after them, the duo disappeared. This left many scratching their heads since the twister vanished soon after it went through the window. Celestia approached Naruto and Twilight. "Are the two of you okay? Did those two hurt you in any way?" Naruto shook his head. "We're fine, however the guard over there in the corner is not so fortunate," pointing towards the remains of the drained guard. Every pony was more than a little disturbed at the sight of the fallen guard. Celestia had the fallen guard removed to find out what happened to him. She would also have to notify his family what happened to him. She was not looking forward to it, but it was her responsibility. Celestia turned to the others. Twilight was being comforted by Shining and Cadence. Naruto was talking with Aurora and Stygian. From what she could see, this is the first time they had encountered these two, and they were worried about what other monsters the cult may have working for them. "Are you okay? What were those two?" The magical signature they gave off was disturbing to say the least. Aurora asked, more than a little unnerved from what she could sense from the two strangers. What were they looking for? They were tearing apart the library for a reason. Something was here that they risked getting discovered for, but what? Stygian said. "That is something we'll have to ask them when we meet again. Until then we should be careful. They won't be back anytime soon, but they will eventually return for whatever they were searching for," Naruto replied. Naruto then noticed Celestia approaching and waved her over. "How is Twilight?" She was shaken up seeing what happened to the guard. "She is fine thanks to you. How did you know what was going on and that Twilight was in danger?" Celestia asked. "I didn't know Twilight was in danger. I got a feeling that something was wrong and followed my instincts, which lead me to the library and our current situation. Considering what happened to the guard, I have no doubts Twilight would have fallen to the same fate," Naruto said. Celestia and Naruto looked over towards where Twilight was being counseled by Shining and Cadence. They could see that both ponies were checking out Twilight for injuries and making sure nothing was wrong. Naruto and Celestia were soon approached by Shining and Cadence. "I can't thank you enough for saving Twilight. I don't want to imagine what would have happened to her if you hadn't saved her," Cadence replied. Naruto just waved them off. "Think nothing of it, I was just lucky enough to be here at the right time." A little while later the group found themselves in the dining hall. Every pony had finished with their dinner and were just waiting Celestia's announcement. "Aside from what happened in the library, what do you think of the castle?" Celestia asked Naruto. "It's very nice place to live in. Most of the ponies I meet on the tour were friendly towards myself and the others," Naruto replied. Celestia nodded her head with a smile on her face. "I'm glad you find it so welcoming. You and the others will be staying at the castle, so you can begin training the new hunters." Naruto nodded his head. He had begun preparing what and how he was going to train the ponies in for hunting monsters. He was also planned to show those who passed his tests how to use Charka. He was going to be careful who he taught when it came to Charka. The people had abused the gift of Charka, turning what was meant to be a gift for peace into a weapon of war. He would take steps to prevent that from happening in Equestria. "I have taken the liberty of having rooms set up for you. Tomorrow we can discuss what we need to start training ponies to hunt monsters," Celestia said. It had been a few days since Naruto and his group arrived in Canterlot. Naruto currently had his hands full dealing with various things, ranging from creating the training plans to teach the monster hunters to dealing with his newfound fame as being the only known male alicorn in existence. He was wearing a dark red t-shirt and dark gray pants. While he was a prince, he preferred to dress casually and comfortably. Naruto was currently in his office, which was set up for him to command and organize the monster hunters once they have been trained. He has already received numerous marriage proposals from various noble houses. Naruto constantly turned them down. He reasons as to why was that he had enough on his plate already and did not have time for dating at this moment in time. The first group of would-be hunters would be members of the guard that either volunteered or chosen to be trained as hunters. Since the monster threat extends to all nations, Naruto hoped to be able to train groups from all kingdoms so that way every kingdom could protect themselves from monster attacks. The first group already has a major advantage because they are trained soldiers. This cuts down to things he would need to train them in. Naruto brought his hand to his chin and thought. He had broken the training into different sections, each one covering a different aspect of the monster hunter training. This would allow him to make sure the hunters he trains know everything that possible before being deployed into the field. The training would not be easy, especially since the guard members will be learning how to use weapons they have never seen or heard of before. It took a while for Stygian and Aurora to learn how to use the weapons and tools of monster hunting properly. Naruto put his notes down and stood up to stretch and get rid of any kinks or knots in his back. He had been sitting at his desk for a while now. He walked over to the window and looked outside as his mind raced with ideas. Most of them were things to train the guard in. He was wearing a dark red t-shirt and dark gray pants. While he was a prince, he preferred to dress casually and comfortably. Naruto was pulled from his thoughts when he heard some pony knocking on his door. "Come in." Hashirama came in with a smile on his face when he saw Naruto. "Naruto, the others wanted to ask if you wanted to take a break from work and hang out with them." Naruto nodded his head. "That sounds like a promising idea. I could use a break and some fresh air." Naruto grabbed his jacket and hat and headed outside with Kurama at his side. Together they met the rest of the group waiting for them at the castle entrance. The group consisted of Cadence, Shining, Twilight and Spike. Cadence was wearing a white blouse and pink skirt, Shining was wearing a black t-shirt and dark blue shorts, Twilight was wearing a lavender sundress, and Spike was wearing a light purple shirt and dark green overalls. And in seeing Kurama and Naruto quickly waved them over, glad to see that you could join us, I know you have your hands full, but I figured you were in need of a break. Naruto nodded his head in agreement, that is an understatement, things have been non-stop. I have managed to put together the basics for training the new hunters, so that is a start. Naruto felt a slight tug on his pants, he looked down and saw Spike trying to get his attention, what's up little guy? Where are Stygian and Aurora? They are on a hunt right now, they should be back later on today. The group headed out on their excursion, the first stop being a small cafe that Candace liked to visit. The cafe specialized in tea and small desserts, it seemed like a place that couples normally come to on dates and such. Each member of the group sat down at the table, their own desserts in front of them. Shining was not a fan of the small desserts, but no pony was listening to his complaints. They just enjoyed the calm atmosphere. As they left the building, a small group of colts and fillies swarmed Naruto and Kurama, each one asking a question at the same time as one other. Candace calmed them down and had them ask one question at a time. Most were questions about his past hunts, while others were curious on what Kurama was and if there were others like him. Naruto made sure to answer questions to the best of his ability while keeping things age appropriate. The kids were disappointed to hear that Naruto only of the one type of palico, which was Kurama, he had not encountered any other palicos. Naruto told a few short stories of past hunts against some of the monsters he had encountered and fought against in the past. The colts and fillies listened with wide eyes at Naruto's stories and the adventures he went on. Candace and the others looked on and smiled at how Naruto was entertaining the kids. This went on for a little bit before the group had to move on with their day, and kids had to move along as well. The next place was a bookstore. Naruto was not surprised that the bookstore was Twilight's choice. Every pony went off in their own direction. Naruto went towards the fantasy section and browsed around to see if there was anything that would catch his eye. As he looked around, Naruto noticed several ponies were watching him. This was not that surprising to Naruto due to his status as a prince of Equestria. Every time he went out, he attracted attention from various ponies. Once the group was done at the bookstore, they went to a comic store, which was Spike's choice. Once inside, he rushed off towards the power pony section. Once again, every pony spilt up and looked at whatever caught their interests. Naruto did not care that much for comics, mostly due to the fact he did not have that type of luxury growing up. He had to skip childhood and focus solely survival and not letting himself fall into the darkness and hatred that infested the village. Naruto shook his head to rid himself of the dark thoughts lingering in his mind. Those days were long gone. There was no reason to focus on those thoughts. He would not let himself worry about the past. Naruto was pulled from his thoughts by the others shaking his shoulder. Sorry, got lost in my thoughts, shall we keep going? The final stop was a hobby shop. The reason for coming was Shining wanting to buy a booster pack for the newest card series. Currently he had settled down the choice down to 5 packs and was examining each pack thoroughly, trying to guess the contents of each pack without opening them. The others looked on with various expressions. Naruto turned to Candace, is this normal for him? Candace giggled, he usually is not this bad, but since a new series was just released, he wants to be extra through in his choice. He is just being a big dork about some silly card game, Twilight replied. Hey, it's not a silly game. Shining exclaimed. Naruto and Candace rolled their eyes at the foolish behavior in front of them. Candace turned to Naruto with a certain gleam in her eye. Naruto wondered what the princess was up to now. Usually when she had that look, it meant she was up to something. So, Naruto, has there been any mares who have got your eye recently? I know of several that have been asking things about you. Candace asked. Naruto turned to Candace, not really, well I have been receiving a lot of fan mail from various mares from across the country. I am not looking into the dating scene right now. Candace nodded her head in agreement. I can imagine, especially since word got out about you being the only known male alicorn in Equestria. You were bound to attract a lot of attention from mares all around. Candace and Naruto would continue making small talk with one another until they were interrupted by a scroll appearing in front of Naruto. The scroll was sent by Celestia to let him know that a monster had been spotted in a nearby town. The monster was not causing problems, but it could prove to be a threat to the town and the ponies who live there. There was also strange sighting of another monster floating through the air. It has not caused any problems, other than frightening any Pegasus that comes across it, but other than that it simply minds its own business. I am afraid I must head out on assignment. A monster is causing trouble while another has been scaring other ponies, Naruto said. Shining answered first, we understand, until you have more ponies to shoulder the workload and hunt monsters you have your hands full with only 3 of you trained and ready to answer the call. Naruto nodded his head, that should change soon, but until then I must do what I can to help those in need. Naruto headed outside and then teleported to his room to grab his gear before teleporting again to the small town of Tranquil Falls. The town was smaller than most towns, but still held its own unique qualities that make it stand out. As soon as he reached the entrance to the town, Naruto's tracker flies at once found several tracks of the monster prowling around the area. Naruto also found multiple samples of silver-colored fur and scales. Naruto moved slowly and carefully into the woods, making sure to keep his senses on full alert as he made his way through the woods. He never knew what could come out and try and blitz him when his back was turned. The monster he was hunting was a fanged wyvern class. Tobikadachi, the monster moved swiftly through the trees while building up a static charge to unleash on its prey. Naruto opened the hunter's guide to read the description of the monster. Tobikadachi's face resembles a colubrid in appearance with grayish-blue scales covering its limbs square-like shape. On its back are patches of white fur, as well as a bushy tail covered in rows of spikes. Its front limbs also have a few spikes. Tobikadachi's head, claws, back and tail can be wounded. When the monster is fully charged, the fur on its back will stand up. Tobikadachi has a number of strong similarities to the stronger and larger Zyunohger. Both are thunder element, both are quadrupedal with a similar body shape, both have a cape of fur running back to a broad and spiny tail, and both are extremely agile and have a penchant for aerial moves. Naruto closed the hunter's manual and began to ready himself for the fight that was coming. The monster was weakest to the water element, so Naruto brought out his water longsword. Azure Star Dragon Dance Plus. The longsword was a potent weapon that could do powerful and swift strikes to its targets when used by someone who is familiar with the weapon. Naruto continued down the trail towards his prey. The forest opened into several paths, some leading into the treetops, which made Naruto wonder how big the forest was. The scout flies continued to light up the monster's trail in a green glow. The trail soon led into a large accessible area. There were countless trees tall as building in the area, but still enough room to walk through the area without any difficulty. The scout flies turned red, alerting Naruto that the monster was close by. Naruto stood still as he focused on finding the Tobikadachi. His ears swiveled around listening to all the sounds in the woods. He then dodged to the right to avoid an incoming attack. When he regained his footing, Naruto saw that the Tobikadachi had tried to ambush him. Naruto narrowed his and began slowly moving in a circle around the monster. His knees bent and his hand was resting on the handle of the blade. He was waiting for the right opening to attack, while at the same time Tobikadachi was doing the exact same thing, accessing its would-be prey. The Tobikadachi would strike first, leaping at Naruto with a lunge attack. Naruto jumped into the air, unsheathing his blade and bringing down on Tobikadachi in a downward piercing attack. The attack would miss any vital organs, but still pierce through the monster's body. Tobikadachi retaliated with a spin attack to knock Naruto off, and then followed up with another lunge attack. Naruto rolled to the right and struck Tobikadachi with swipes of his blade. Each attack cut away at the scales and fur on the monster, exposing the softer flesh underneath. Naruto fell back while avoiding a series of claw swipe attack from Tobikadachi. Tobikadachi then charged towards a tree, running up and then jumping off. It spun in midair and then unleashed a tail slam that also released an electric shock wave on the ground. Naruto once again dodged the attack while loading his slinger with a trio of piercing pods. Naruto aimed at the exposed flesh on the beast before launching one pod after the other. The pods tore through the exposed flesh. Tobikadachi roared in pain and released a large burst charged electrical energy. Naruto readied himself for whatever was coming next. Tobikadachi charged at Naruto, its natural abilities boosted by its power-up. Naruto dodged its attacks and continued to strike back using his longsword and landing a multi-hit combo that finished with Naruto leaping into the air and bringing down his blade in a multi-hit finisher. Tobikadachi let loose another charged attack towards Naruto. He ran up a nearby tree to avoid the attack, while Tobikadachi took the chance to run away. Naruto jumped down and followed the trail of the retreating monster, the scout flies once again lighting up the monster's trail. Naruto rushed forward. He did not want to give the monster a chance to escape from the area. Naruto would soon track Tobikadachi to a small clearing. Tobikadachi, upon seeing Naruto, roared and launched itself at Naruto. Naruto dodged to the right while pulling out for Tobikadachi. He then planted on the ground and fell back to draw Tobikadachi into the trap. Tobikadachi gave one last cry before failing down. Naruto sheathed his blade and sealed the corpse away. He would take what material he could from the body before scattering the remains around for predators to find. As he walked back out of the forest, Naruto's scout flies flew out of their container and started swarming around an unknown object on the ground. To make things even more strange, the flies were glowing blue, which meant that the object was from an elder dragon. Naruto slowly approached the object in question. It was a large clump of moss and algae. Naruto examined the pile closely, wondering what elder dragon it came from. There was also the message that talked about a strange creature being seen floating in the skies at the same time that Toby was reported in. The scout flies lit up a trail for Naruto to follow. Hopefully this will lead to the identity of this mysterious elder dragon. The trail soon led to a strange clearing. The clearing was shaped in a large circle with numerous broken trees and other debris littering the ground. Naruto looked around and began investigating the area. There was not any signs of an explosive going off, and there were signs of trees and other things being uprooted as if they were pulled into the air. What happened here? The flies are telling me an elder dragon was here, but which one does this type of damage? Naruto wondered aloud. Naruto took to the air hoping he could see something from above, but he found nothing except open skies. Naruto was going to start heading back when the scout flies lit up once again and flew towards a strange bulbous mound in the distance. Naruto flew closer to investigate the mound. He also made sure to keep his guard up because the scout flies were leading him toward the mound, which meant that it could be an elder dragon. Before Naruto could get to close the mound, the area around it started to shake, and soon the mound itself began to rise into the air. As the mound cleared itself from the ground, it revealed to be a new elder dragon. Naruto felt the hunter book shake and at once pulled it out. It opened a page about the elder dragon in front of him called Yamatsukami. Yamatsukami is an unusual elder dragon with an octopus-like body. It is covered in moss, algae, and other plant life, and boasts a set of 4 thick tentacles. In addition, it possesses 2 large whiskers and an oddly human-like set of teeth and gums. It produces gas within its body in order to keep itself afloat. The Yama did not seem to take notice of Naruto, or it did not care. It floated higher and higher into the air without a care in the world. Naruto was unsure on what to do. Yama was not an aggressive monster, but it would defend itself if attacked. Naruto moved closer to the Yamatsukami and placed a tracking seal on it, that way he could keep an eye on it. If it started causing problems, then he would deal with it. Naruto waited until the Yamatsukami had fully left the area before following suit. He hoped he made the right decision, but only time would give him that answer. He would make sure to send out a warning to all Pegasus in air travel to avoid the elder dragon, to avoid any problems with the monster. Naruto stopped by the town to let them know that monster prowling the forest was dead and the other monster, and floated away. Once that was done, Naruto headed back to Canterlot. The hunt did not take that long, so he should be able to meet back up with the group. A minor flash of light revealed Naruto returning to Canterlot. He already sent Celestia a report on what happened. He headed back to the game shop to check in with the gang and see if Shining made any progress on his choice yet. Before Naruto could start heading back to the group, he felt a strange pull leading him in another direction. Naruto chose to follow his feeling and see where it leads him. Naruto soon found himself in front of a music shop. His curiosity getting the better of him, he entered and started looking around. The shop had several different instruments on display and shelves filled with different books of songs and instructions on how to them for each of the instruments on sale. Naruto would soon be drawn to a violin. Old memories and feeling long buried began to rise to the surface once more. It had been a long time since he had picked up a violin. He had learned how to play one from a family in Konoha. Despite his efforts, the family would work their way into his heart and pay the price for getting close to him. He avoided playing the instrument since then. Naruto refused to play after what happened due to the memories of that day coming back to haunt him every time he tried to. "I see you have exquisite taste, sir. This is one of my finest instruments that I currently sell," the shopkeeper said. Naruto nodded his head. "Yes, it most certainly is. It has been a long time since I have touched such an instrument. Would you like to hold it for yourself?" the shopkeeper asked. Naruto was hesitant at first, before he steeled his nerves and nodded his head. He cannot let the memories of the past haunt. He had to move past the darkness, otherwise he would never be free of his past. The shopkeeper unlocked the case and handed Naruto the instrument. Naruto took a deep breath and let the memories of the past guide him. The music started slowly and quietly, then soon started to rise in volume and intensity. Those in the shop stopped what they were doing and listened to the music that was being played. The music turned into a calm and soothing melody that made those who listen stop whatever they are doing and just listen to the music. The music drew them in and painted a scene of peace and serenity in their minds. Naruto soon finished the song and received a round of applause from all those who had heard the wonderful music. Naruto slightly blushed from the embarrassment of the attention he was receiving. This was the first time he played in front of others besides the family that taught him how to play. "That was wonderful. You say that it had been a long time since you played, but you do not seem to have lost a step when it comes to playing," the shopkeeper said. Naruto simply shrugged. "My body remembers everything I learned even after so long. I would like to purchase this violin." The shopkeeper nodded his head. "Please follow me, and I will ring you up." Naruto purchased the violin and a case to go with it and then headed back towards Candace and the others. As he looked through the window of the shop, he saw Shining arguing with the shopkeeper. Naruto rolled his eyes at the silliness of what he saw. Naruto entered the store. "I see I have not missed much since I have been gone." After Shining finally settled down and paid for his cards, the group headed back to the castle. After that, the group went their separate ways, with Naruto going back to his room to continue working on the training schedule for the future hunters. Naruto would continue planning out the training schedule until the evening. A knock on his door would draw him away from his work. "Please come in." A maid entered the room. "Please excuse me, but Princess Celestia would like you to join her in the gardens for tea." "That sounds nice, I will join her momentarily." The maid bowed before leaving the room. Naruto grabbed his coat and followed suit. As Naruto entered the gardens, he saw the table was empty, meaning Celestia had yet to arrive. Naruto guessed something must have tied her up, and he would just have to be patient. As Naruto sat down at the table, he pulled out his violin that he bought today and started to play. The song Naruto played was a wild song with a mixture of highs and lows. The song drew the animals in the garden out, and they soon watched, and some danced around Naruto as he let the music flow and his body moved to the beat. Celestia entered the gardens after being delayed by a noble wanting to talk to her about wanting something. It quickly turned out to be the noble wanting permission for an unnecessary expansion to his home. In the process of the expansion, a few low-income homes would have to be torn down. Celestia immediately shot down the expansion, much to the noble's dismay. Celestia shook her head. There were times where the request of the nobles was downright foolish at times and a waste of bits. These foolish requests that wore her down the most at times, but she had to listen to them regardless. Celestia sighed aloud and continued onward to the gardens. She had asked Naruto to meet her out here to discuss how his plans for training the hunters was coming along and ask him how he was setting in. She imagined that there could be some difficulties he could face, especially since he was an alicorn, which meant numerous ponies would try and use him for personal gain and other reasons. As Celestia entered the garden, she first noticed that Naruto was not present at the table, but his hat was resting on his seat. Then she heard music being played in the gardens. She followed the music to find Naruto playing a violin while dancing about in a clearing, surrounded by different animals that call the garden their home. Naruto was enjoying himself as he played a fast song and danced around to the music. The animals followed his lead and moved around him, some dancing in their own ways. Naruto wrapped up the song and took a deep breath. Once again old memories awakened within him. Memories he had buried to do the pain he had felt and the suffering he could never forget from that nightmarish day. He could not keep running away from the pain, he needs to let go of it if he wants peace. That was a beautiful song. I had no idea you could play the violin. Naruto turned to face Celestia. "Thank you, it has been a very long time since I have picked up and played any kind of instrument." Naruto headed back to the table with Celestia following him. Both sat down, and Naruto delicacy placed his violin back in its case. Naruto closed the case and rested his hands on it as memories of the family who taught him how to play. Celestia stared at Naruto. She could see that there was something troubling on his mind. "Is everything okay, Naruto?" Naruto sighed aloud. "Yes, old memories that I have not thought about in a long time are rising to surface. They deal with my choice to pick up an instrument after swearing to never touch one again after that night. Do you wish to talk about it?" Naruto sighed and looked up at the night sky. "Yes, perhaps it would be best. You will have to forgive me, the story is not a happy one, especially the ending. I would meet the Raven family shortly after my 7th birthday. The family had just moved to the village, so they were not aware of my pariah status. I would see them several times passing through the streets, but I would pay them no mind. After all, I was concerned with my day-to-day living, not new families moving in. It would be later on that I would run into them on the streets. I would learn that they were from a traveling group and they had left shortly after their daughter was born. Both parents were trained musicians, had planned on setting up a shop to teach others how to play a variety of music and instruments. It was on a rainy day that I would meet the family. I was looking for my next meal wherever I could. As soon as the rain started to come down, I had ducked into an alleyway. It offered some protection from the rain, but not a whole lot. Naruto looked up at the sky and closed his eyes as he remembered that fateful night. He could picture it so clearly. The sound of the rain falling and the smell of the alleyway, the feeling of hunger due not eating in a few days. I was scavenging around the alleyway for a dry place to hold up in until the rain pasted. When a door opened up, I would duck behind a nearby dumpster. The person that came out was the father of the family I mentioned. He and his family would live above their shop. I hid because a majority of the village had negative feelings towards me and did not hesitate to act on them whenever they could. Naruto thought back on how he would be revealed. A stray cat would sneak up behind him and force him to jump out into the open. Flashback start. A younger human, Naruto dressed in rags, stared at the adult in front of him. He recognized him as a new arrival in the village. After a few minutes of staring at one another, Naruto chose to leave before the situation turned ugly for himself. Before he could get far, the man called out to him, "Wait, why is a child doing outside in the rain?" Naruto chose not to answer the question, but instead tried to leave again, but once again was stopped by the same man. This time he had his hand on his shoulder. "Where are your parents?" Naruto sighed before turning to the man. "I'm an orphan, and you would be wise to leave me be. If anyone sees you talking to me, it will only bring unwanted trouble on your family." The man flinched for a second before grabbing Naruto once again. "I'm sorry, but I will not allow a child to be outside in this weather. I do not know what you mean by trouble, but I am not going to let you stay outside in the cold. Naruto sighed aloud once again and walked besides the man into his home. He was too tired and hungry to fight the man. He would have to sneak away from the family later on. The villagers had no problem hurting anyone who showed any form of kindness to him. The woman with mid-length raven hair, she was wearing a light gray shirt and a cream-colored skirt. She looked first at her husband then at the young child standing next to him. Before Naruto could say anything, the woman was in front of him drying him off with a towel. Why were you outside in this rain? Naruto continued to stay quiet, he needed to leave before anyone sees him here. The longer he stays the more trouble he will bring on this family. Naruto sighed, why I was outside doesn't matter, I need to get going so I will be on my way. As Naruto tried to leave the man stopped him by placing a firm hand on his shoulder. I am sorry, but I am not letting you back outside especially in this weather and with the rags you're wearing, you could catch your death out there. Naruto pulled from the man, that does not matter, the longer I stay here the more I put your family at risk. Whether or not you heard the rumors about me, you do not want others seeing me on your own, it will cause problems for you and your family. The couple exchanged a look with one another, both of them felt there was more to this situation than they know. Son, can you give us a minute? The man asked Naruto. Naruto shrugged and continued drying off, the couple moved to the side to talk about the current situation. What are we going to do, we cannot let him back out there in this weather and wearing those rags, the woman said to her husband. The man brought his hand to his chin and thought, we can try but I seen that look in his eyes before he will not allow himself to budge. He wants to protect us but from what or from whom is he trying to protect us from? So, that brings back my question, what do we do? The man sighed aloud, we can try and help him as best we can, but we cannot force him to accept our help, that will only cause more problems. The couple walked back towards Naruto who had finished drying off, he looked outside and noticed the storm has gotten even worse. Which meant it would be a pain in the rear getting back to his apartment. He would not be in this situation if he left earlier, this was his own fault and he would have to deal with it, thankfully he knew several paths that led back home and should not have to deal with too much of the storm so long as he moved fast. Naruto turned when he heard footsteps and noticed it was the couple, thank you for letting me dry off, but I need to get going. The woman stepped forward, please listen, the storm outside is fierce and raging hard. I know you keep saying about protecting us, but just for tonight let us shelter you from the storm. Naruto sighed aloud and pinched the bridge of his nose, ugh, fine I will stay the night. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. The man stepped forward, my name is Shadow Raven, my wife is Claire, and our daughter who is upstairs is named Rose. Flashback end. It is amazing how single meeting can change your life so much, the family would quickly become a part of life, despite my best efforts to keep them away from me to protect them. Naruto paused in his story as more thoughts of the past drifted to the surface, the family would end up becoming important to him, despite all the warning he tried to tell himself to distance himself from them, he kept finding reasons to keep going back to them. He remembered being introduced to music by the family and later on learn how to play different instruments such as the violin and other ones. They would become a part of his life and he would find out what it meant to be a part of a family. In the end they would pay the price for his mistakes, he has never forgiven the village for what they did that night. Celestia could tell that what Naruto was talking about was a difficult story, the proof was written on his face. She knew that Naruto was guarded about certain things in his past, he avoided talking about certain things, especially his childhood. So, she knew that this conversation was not an easy one, Celestia could feel the emotions coming from Naruto as he talked about his past and had a powerful feeling this story would not end well. After my initial meeting I would end up running into the family on several occasions, I would always try and make sure no one saw me meeting the family so I do not put them at risk. Slowly over time I would get closer to the family than I should ever have. Naruto leaned back in his chair, his mind drifted back to the past when he was younger and the brief time he was genuinely happy in the village. What I did not know was the fact my secret had already been uncovered by those I feared most, I would also be betrayed by someone I thought I could trust but was looking out for the village at the cost of myself. Celestia was concerned with the expression on Naruto's face, Naruto, do you wish to stop? I can tell that this story is bringing up bad memories for you. Naruto shook his head, it's okay, I have been avoiding talking this for a long time. I cannot keep avoiding the past, no matter how much it hurts me. It would be a year later that I would pay for my mistake of letting the family get close to me. Flashback start. It was a mild day in October, the fall weather gave the air a slight chill. The village was preparing for the annual festival that celebrated the QB's defeat. For most it was a time of fun and celebration, but for Naruto it was a time to duck out of the public eye until the festival was over. The villagers' angry and fury towards him was always increased to higher levels than usual during the festival, so he would hide away until it was over in one of his hidden areas around the village. At least it was his plan. He had changed his plans when he found a message from the family telling to come to their home. This was not an odd request. They had developed a message system to communicate with one another without anyone from discovering their messages. Naruto stealthy made his way to the Raven home. He too extra careful because the villagers are looking for him. Naruto could not shake the feeling something was wrong. He did not know what it was. He soon reached the Raven home. As he approached the door, the same bad feeling he had continued to get worse. Naruto slowly opened the door. Everything was quiet inside. Naruto kept his guard up. Naruto stealthy made his way inside the home, his gut telling him something was wrong. As he entered the dining room, he found a surprise waiting for him. The Ravens had set up a surprise party for him. Naruto was astounded with what he saw. He had never had any kind of party thrown for him. His birthday was always a sore topic for him. The villagers' hatred towards him would always be at its peak, so he never celebrated his birthday in any way other than getting a cupcake and a candle and wishing for a better year than the last one. As he approached the table, which was decorated for the party, he saw a note on it which after reading confirmed his worst fears. He immediately rushed out the doors to the location that was written on the note. Naruto held nothing back as he raced across the rooftops. He refused to lose the ones he cared about the most in the village to those who want nothing more than to enslave him to the darkness. I can't lose them, I can't, I refuse to lose the only ones who have ever shown me any form of kindness in this village, Naruto said to himself. Naruto soon reached the training ground that was on the note, but he was too late. Naruto fell to his knees as he looked at the family that showed him such kindness, and because of it, they now hung from the trees covered in wounds from their attackers. A sign hung above the family. Written on the sign was "Demon Lovers." Flashback end. Celestia said nothing at first. She was trying to process everything Naruto had just told her. Why would they go so far to murder an innocent family? Naruto said nothing at first. He just drank his tea because they could. To the villagers, I was nothing more than a reminder of that night and the ones they had lost. To the leader and the military people of the village, I was weapon to be used and molded into whatever they choose. By allowing myself to open up to the family, I was choosing a path that they did not want. Celestia was still horrified by what Naruto said. No wonder he rarely talks about his past. He was forced to skip his childhood and become an adult straight away, Celestia thought to herself. I am sorry to put such a depressive feeling on the meeting. Celestia waved off Naruto's apology. It's fine, you said you needed to get it off your chest, and it was the only way to release the darkness that haunts you. So besides listening to tales of my dark past, what else did you want to discuss? Celestia smiled. How is the work of putting together the training for the new hunters? It has been challenging at times, but I should have everything ready for them. I have set up several training sessions for the hunters to make them familiar with the weapons and tools that they will be using in the field. My plan is to create groups of 4 hunters working together to hunt monsters. That way the hunters can rely on working together in a squad to take down a monster, and later on work in pairs or by themselves, once they have enough experience. Celestia nodded her head. That is a wise idea. Working in groups, they can have each other to back them up against the monsters. The monsters will be difficult to hunt when the hunters are first starting out, and working together may ease some of their fears. Another thing I have in mind is during their training, I will have the hunters go on practice missions using a unique item I have in my possession that will allow them to simulate hunting monsters in a controlled environment. Since the hunters will be starting with the first level weapons, I will offer parts of the monsters they defeat in the training missions, which will allow them to upgrade their weapons before they go into the field. Celestia was impressed with Naruto's plan for training the hunters. He was proving to be more than ready to instruct a new group of hunters. She knew that he was nervous about teaching others, but he was overcoming his fears. Naruto, what do you mean by monster parts and upgrades? Celestia asked. The weapons that a hunter uses can be strengthened with various parts of the different monsters they hunt. The monster parts also have the ability to give their weapons an elemental affinity. The type of affinity varies upon which monster material is used in the upgrade process. Celestia raised an eyebrow. So, you hunt the monsters, then use different parts to strengthen your weapons. Naruto nodded his head. That is correct. The stronger the monster, the stronger your will weapon will become. It sounds like you have a good grip on the situation despite your initial nervousness about teaching others. I know that monster attacks on have been escalating lately, and you and the others are being stretched to limit trying to deal with the situation. Naruto nodded his head. I am still nervous, but I am getting more relaxed about teaching. I wish I had an idea on what was causing such an increase in monster activity. I have found a few traces of an unknown elder dragon at some of the monster sites. Naruto leaned back in his chair. Something tells me that the elder dragon may play a role in the recent attacks, but there is still too little information on it to come to a conclusion. Celestia wondered what the connection was between the rise in monster attacks and the unknown elder dragon. She was worried for her ponies. If there was an elder dragon out there causing a spike in monster activity, there was a chance for things to take a dark turn and her ponies to be caught in a dire situation. Naruto, I know you are nervous about teaching, but considering how monster attacks are on the rise, I want you to jumpstart the training. The attacks are rising to the point you and the others are having difficulty keeping up with them. Before things get worse, I want you to start training others before the situation can get worse. Naruto sighed aloud and rubbed his head. You are right, we cannot take any chances. I do not want to put any pony at risk due to a lack of hunters to deal with the rising attacks. I will start the training ASAP. Naruto, has there been anything in the journal to help identify what could be causing the rising surge of attacks? Naruto shook his head. No, I have not been able to gather enough materials to identify the monster. I only know that the monster is an elder dragon due to the scout files turning blue. The files only do that in the presence of elder dragon. Celestia smiled at Naruto. I will gather the members of the guard who were selected to be trained to become hunters and let them know their training is starting earlier than expected. Naruto bid Celestia goodnight and headed back to his room. His mind raced with the newest challenge of teaching coming up and the unknown elder dragon on the loose and what connection it has to the rising monster attacks. Naruto did his best to relax his mind and get some rest. He would need to be fully alert for the start of the training. Stygian and Aurora turned out extremely well and worked perfectly together, but he still felt nervous. The reasons lied in his own mediocre training that he got from his teachers. Both of them wrote him off as worthless and did not want to take his training seriously. They chose to waste his time or make him rely on himself, then trying to help him whenever he was struggling with what he was learning from them. Naruto would make sure he would not repeat their mistakes. He would do his best to aid his students with whatever problems they had. They were being trained for a dangerous field. He would make sure when they finished their training that they were prepared for what they were getting into. Later on, that night. The loud knocking drew Naruto from his sleep. He quickly hurried to the door to see what the matter was. The member of the guard was standing at the door. In his hand was a scroll. I am sorry for waking you, but an emergency hunt just came in. An unknown monster attacked a village. This was not the first attack by this creature, however. There had been other attacks, but this was the first time the villagers seen the creature. So, I have tasked with dealing with the monster. The guard nodded his head. The townsfolk are scared. Several farmers had their cattle killed by the monster tonight, and they are worried about the monster attacking them next. Naruto nodded his head. Let me get dressed, and I will head out immediately to deal with the threat. A little while later Naruto found himself in the town who sent the message with the monster problem. From what he could see, the residents of the town were shaken up and afraid. He had to work quickly to deal with this monster before the monster could strike again. Naruto headed towards the farms where the monster had struck first to find traces that could help him identify the monster. Upon reaching the farms, the tracker files started lighting up several tracks for him to follow. Naruto soon discovered enough tracks to identify the monster as a Nargacuga. Naruto opened his journal to read up on the monster he was hunting this night. Flying wyverns that have evolved to live in thickly wooded areas. Covered in jet black fur, these cunning predators stalk their prey from the shadows and attack with ferocious speed. Their massive tails are dexterous as they are deadly and powerful enough to slay smaller monsters with one strike. Naruto studied the monster's weakness, learning that its main weakness was thunder. Knowing this, and how the journal mentioned that the Nargacuga was light on its feet, he chose to go with a pair of thunder-infused dual blades to keep up with the monster's speed. Naruto brought out his Despot's Blitz dual blades to use to hunt the monster. For armor he chose the gear that would most benefit the weapons he was using. For armor he wore Itsushi Mask, H.S., Iliakan Thorax S, Lugambi Vambraces S, Scalda Litra S, Remobber Feet S, and a bolt jewel inserted into the dual blades to boost their strength. Naruto made sure he had plenty of potions, and all of his gear was ready before entering the woods. The flies light up the tracks as he slowly followed the path. He did not want to chance anything since the monster he was hunting was known to lie in wait and ambush their targets and prey. Naruto pulled a set of night vision goggles from his bag to help with the hunt. The goggles allowed him to see the area better, and he did not have to worry about bright flashes interfering with his vision. Naruto looked down and noticed a blood trail on the ground. The trail continued onward into the woods, which Naruto followed with great care, keeping his ears up and listening for any noise that would give away the location of the prey he was hunting. Naruto soon followed the trail to a large clearing where he found one of the slain cows from the farms that was attacked earlier. As he approached the cow, he could see that the kill was fresh and there were feather quills sticking out of the cow. Naruto pulled one loose and examined it. The quill had black fur flaring out. It reminded him of a feather. As Naruto examined the feather, an unknown creature was watching him from the woods. It was examining him from the woods, wondering who this creature was. Naruto readied himself, his dual blades in each hand, and stared at the Nargacuga in front of him. The beast circled around Naruto as he did the same, each one waiting for the another to make a move. The Nargacuga roared at Naruto before charging at him. Naruto rolled to the left to dodge the attack and started attacking the monster's exposed sides. Naruto unleashed several combos before being driven away by the monster. The Nargacuga charged at Naruto once again, forcing him to take to the air. He had to weave through the air as the beast started firing off quills at him. Naruto was able to avoid the quills and performed a rolling spin attack that hit the Nargacuga from head to tail, doing large amounts of damage to the beast. Nargacuga was able to retaliate with a powerful claw swipe that slammed into Naruto. The attack knocked him back and into a tree branch. Seizing its chance, the Nargacuga started to run away from Naruto. Naruto got back up and started chasing after the monster. He did not want to risk the chance of the monster leaving the area and endangering others. Naruto soon caught up to the Nargacuga. Naruto brought out another hunter's tool. This one was a small slingshot that fired large orbs that were filled with various chemicals that when exploded caused different elements depending on the orb that was fired. The orbs that were fired had a shock effect on the monster, temporarily paralyzing him and leaving him open for attacks. Naruto dashed forward and immediately began his assault on the Nargacuga. He targeted various weak points on the body to weaken it further. The monster, after breaking free of the stun, let out a ferocious roar that stunned Naruto for a moment, which the Nargacuga followed up with a tail swipe, knocking Naruto away. Naruto rolled to his feet and fired off another sling orb at the creature. The orb slammed into the creature, coating the monster in the electric gel while doing massive damage to the monster. The Nargacuga turned towards Naruto. Its body showed various spots of damage from the relentless assault. The Nargacuga charged at Naruto, in which Naruto responded by rolling out of the path of the attack, but it was a feint to run away from Naruto. Naruto got to his feet and started chasing after the beast. The flies lit up the trail as Naruto moved quickly through the forest after his target. Naruto had to stick to the ground because the trees too were too thick to fly in, and he did not want to lose the trail. Naruto eventually caught up with the monster. He approached it slowly due to the fact it appeared to be asleep, no doubt to recover its strength. However, as Naruto got closer to the monster, he noticed that the Nargacuga was not asleep as he first thought, but it died from its wounds. Naruto sealed away the body so he could examine it later and take the parts of the body used for materials later on. As he started walking away from the monster's nest, Naruto's flies shifted to a blue color, meaning that there was an elder dragon marking or a monster nearby. Naruto followed the flies up to the top of a large tree to find two other monster bodies. The monsters were a Rathian and a Rathalos. Both of the bodies had received heavy damage and the area around filled with broken and burned trees, there countless claw marks on the ground and trees as well. It looked like a fierce battle was waged here, but what Naruto wondered was what were they fighting against to cause so much destruction. As he walked around the area trying to gather intel on what happened, his flies once again turned blue and led him to a series of purple scales on the ground. Naruto did not recognize the monster or elder dragon they had came from, but suspected that it was the cause of what had happened here. Naruto merely sighed aloud and wondered what was causing such problems, and did it relate to the amplified aggression he had been seeing in the monsters lately. He did not have all the clues just yet, but he had a powerful feeling an elder dragon was the root of the problem. Naruto once again sighed and headed back to the village to let them know the job was done, and headed back home to get some rest and prepare for the training to start on the new generation of hunters. Chapter end. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Peace out.